fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's going with the outside of both of them. Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up to
Oh my God! Big crash. Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get rolled.
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go.
Oh no!
That's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.
God, what?
Welcome back to the 2022 Logitech G OSR Bathurst 12-hour here on SimSpeed TV, ready to take you through to the checkered flag. 3 hours and 12 minutes remaining, and we've timed this pretty well. There's a safety car on track at the moment, which means we will be going green in not too long, and we'll see them on the restart, and it gives us a good opportunity to very quickly get a bit of an assessment on the lay of the land. Joining me for the end of this one, it's Brad Wingard up here in the booth, and we'll probably coax Jay into commentating at some point as well. But for now, Brad, good afternoon. How are you? You've got two cars out there for Drop Bear Motorsport. One of them's behind the safety car in terms of laps, but the other one's going alright.
Yeah, good afternoon, Ryan. It's been a little while since we've commentated together, so this is going to be good. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, the GT4 car had a very unfortunate incident very early in the race. The GT3 car's still going around relatively well, so still got, 3 hours and a bit of racing, so plenty of time to make those positions up, especially if we keep getting some late safety cars. So I think there's quite a few people banking on those safety cars as well, so it'll be interesting to see how this race finishes.
On the right-hand side of the screen, you can see the list of cars that have retired from this race. And most of these have happened while we were away. We only had 2 retirements at the 3-hour mark when we left. Some big names on that list. R1 Sim Sports are out after some very unfortunate incidents. They could have won this race. So too, Vendervaal Sim Racing Yellow, they're out. And 95 Sim Sport have lost both their cars. And in the GT4 class, we've lost 5 cars. However, the remaining 6 were all on the lead lap until Evolution Racing Team put themselves in the fence, brought out their safety car. They do have their spare car available, so they should be back out there, and who knows, they may still be in with a shot. But as the Logitech G pace car peels away, it's Adam Willison in control of the field for Lesser Esports. These guys just keep popping up at the top, and I wonder if they're on for a very good day. Tom Freer for Synergy Sim Racing, car 89 in second. Brody Kostecki for Falcon Racing, he had almost a 60-second advantage, but 2 quick safety cars have put him back to P3 ahead of Damon Woods for Evolution Racing Team. And there's a couple of laps cars in between them and the leaders. Emily Jones for Trans-Tasman and Riley Bilson for Simrigs.com, who will be hoping to get themselves back on the lead lap. We'll look at GT4 in a minute, because Willison in control, pins the throttle, and we're back green at the mountain. Nice start from Lessie Esports. Emily Jones quickly looking to try to get by Riley Bilson, but not able to make that one work in towards turn 1. So, back to racing conditions. We've got about 38 cars left running in this race, and back in the GT4s, Brad, it's all up for play.
It really is, and GT4 is one of those categories where not many people flock to it, as we nearly see a move for the lead there, but Lesser Esports holding that inside line, which, as we've spoken about countless times, is king around here. But yeah, all those GT4 cars are on the lead lap. There's been some GT3 traffic in amongst them for that restart, and they're all cycling their way through now, but it's only a matter of time until the rest of that pack catches up to the RHG Guest 888 car, who currently leads that class.
really tight on the restart between these two GT3 leaders, neither of which cars I expected to be in contention, but with 3 hours left, they're there. And that's all that matters. You can see Bilson and Jones very eager to get by as well. They're both only 1 lap down, and the first 2 cars are lap down in this field. Currently 21 cars on the lead lap. So if they can get by, get on the lead lap, and catch a quick safety car again, they're right back in contention. And I would class both those cars as podium chances if they can get themselves into that lead lap. 236 laps complete for our field, as here comes the move from Tom Freer for Synergy Sim Racing, putting them to the top of the totem pole. Nice and smooth there, as in the background, Bilson going side by side with Jones, up and over the curb. Jones goes through. Nice move from Emily there. And Brody Kostecki watching on for Falcon Racing, driving with Cooper Murray and Jared Filsell, who started this race. Bilson puts himself in the fence, trying to let Brody go. Brad just got off in the marbles, which will be a massive offline issue now that we're 9 hours deep in this one.
Yeah, it's so easy to do that. You want to, once that pass by Emily Jones was completed, Riley didn't have much stake in that bit of track, but that's the issue that we face with multi-class racing, is people try to get out of the way and then they end up ruining their own race or someone else's. Thankfully for everyone around him, it was only Bilson that has put him off track, but that Ferrari is looking even more damaged than it was before, so trying to get back onto the lead lap just got a whole lot harder for that GPR car.
Sure did. Looking at Emily Jones at the moment, staring at the back of the Ferrari. Oh no, that's going to be a big shunt at the top of the mountain. Can they all get by? Adam Willison has lost it right in front of Emily Jones, and somehow has not been collected by anyone else. He managed to spin just off the racing line in time. That engine, I'll be surprised if it's still alive.
Yeah, that was a really strange incident. I thought he clipped the inside and then the opposite inside wall, but he missed both of them. He just got unsettled over the curb, and that was pretty much it. He was a passenger from then on.
Now this is a very tricky spot to get going again. We've just had the restart, so the pack's all bunched up, and that plays to his favour. He turns it around. The engine is still alive. And we'll grab a replay. Here we are. So, having just lost the lead of the race for SC Esports, I suspect they've already taken the spare car too, so this could be day done. Just lost the rear end under the tree, as you mentioned, and didn't take much to fire into the concrete at Solman.
Excellent manoeuvring. Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. Sorry to cut you off.
More
but
drama.
That was...
I'll cut you off in return. More drama. Brody Stanley is at Forrest's elbow with his rear end in the fence. So we're going to replay that car 22 in a minute. That's the onboard view, Brad, and you can talk us through this next one.
Oh, that's too much. Too much from a restart. We needed a little bit more time until we got to that, but with the Team JDR car coming across the top of the mountain, so we said this was at the elbow, so we've got a little bit of a ways to go yet. But following closely, I think that's the Stenny in behind in the Mercedes, if I'm not mistaken.
It is Stenny's car.
Stenny's car, yeah. And that car is still waiting for a penalty to come through, and here we are. And again, it's just that rear end. Just, I guess that's kind of the issue with the mid-engine cars, is it's so easy to lose that rear end, even if they are a bit quicker and sometimes more stable across a track like this. So very unfortunate spin, but the car is still going, unlike that one.
Good news is he didn't hit the wall particularly hard, so he can live to fight another lap. Down the hill, we pick up Vendaval Sim Racing, their lone challenger remaining in this field, and he's looking to put a move on, to put himself on the podium here. Damon Woods for Evolution Racing Team has already been passed by Brody Kostecki. Oh, sorry, he restarted behind Brody Kostecki, and Brody's stripping away from him a little bit. But he could be about to be passed by Anderson, who, let's not forget, put that car on pole. And has been mighty quick. He was mighty quick on the opening stint. He's pulled the move. And he should make this one stick. Just struggling to keep the rear end in check as he goes around the outside of the chase. Now that one's all but a done deal for Vendervaal. Woods just leads off the throttle, lets him go on the exit. As we're going to have a look at a replay, there was an overtake just behind them on the racetrack a moment ago. So thanks to Virtual Racing School, this is James Scott at the wheel for Altus Esports. These guys have a 10-second penalty that they've already served in this race under a pit stop. So not being completely smooth sailing for them, but up the inside at the chase. And that was much simpler as two Synergy cars went side by side and swapped positions. But wait for it, says Director J. Oh, look who's sixth. It's Brenton Hobson. The meme lives on. Meme eternal.
I guess that replay was kind of worth it in the end. It was a good pass, but that wasn't quite what I was expecting for Jay to be shouting in my ear when the replay started. But I guess, like you said, the meme lives on. So
yes, get on the Jay bashing wagon. Love it. Up the mountain. I've taught you well. Up the mountain, riding on board with TriStar Racing 111, looking backwards. Joe Mugford at the wheel. His team boss is going to be joining us in commentary to help Jay do less work. Brant Tucker will be here in the not too distant future. But this car is in a really big fight right now. Just up the road from him is Kozlowski, Kelly, and Wardby fighting for 8th. There they are. So Fishy Motorsport being championed for Wildby, Brock Kelly, Kozlowski. They're from RSR Esport and Simrigs.com DPR. Car 233. This could be a move here for Kelly. On the brakes. Ooh. Well, that was easy.
I thought that was really late on the brakes, but I mean, he dipped a half tyre into the grass on exit. But yeah, that was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be because he came from a long way back. But I think the Fisher car just kind of knew that his race was, well, that wasn't his fight at the time, so he pulled out of it early. But that 111 is all over that attack at the moment.
Whoa! Bradley Ratu! 2 for the price of 1 there. Sells by the laps car of Jake Edwards. Picks up a spot on XCM as well. That was really good on the inside at turn 1. Hell corner. No such issues for Ratu.
That one also came not so much from a long way back, but definitely out of nowhere. You love a good twofer into turn 1. He didn't even really lose that much momentum up the straight from it either. I mean, messes up turn 2 a little bit, but we won't talk about that. He still had the draft and a good momentum out of turn 1, which occasionally, if you go for a pass at turn 1, you're offline and you can't get onto throttle properly, and your goose is kind of cooked come turn 2, but he got a really good drive out of that one and helped consolidate that position.
Now we're riding on board with Bradley Ratu. That's one of those cars he passed, sat behind him now, and if we look out the front, we'll see Joe Mugford for TriStar and Kenneth Latta for Synergy Sim Racing. It's shaping up to be a really good race for Synergy Sim Racing. They've got a car in the lead, cars running 6th and 7th, and this car running 11th.
It's kind of a strength in numbers sort of thing. I've seen the Scops entry form, and they've got about 40 cars in that as well. So it's good to get all those numbers in to get good results, and it's proving itself here. A lot of teams coming with 2 cars and they're both out of the race, but Synergy have turned up with 5 and all of them are in the top 11.
Not to mention their GT4 entry is still on the lead lap, so there's still a possibility of a double for Synergy here. But 3 hours to go, a long way. Checking in on the GT4s, Mario Vartanian is doing a nice job for R8G guest 888, running ahead of Trans-Tasman Racing Car 77 and Car 92. And they've split their bets in GT4 of Trans-Tasman. You've got Madison Down running in a McLaren with Lee Ellis and Brock Salmon. And then you've got Brady Myers running in a Porsche with Jake Maloney and Richard Hampstead. I tell you what, actually, put Maloney and Hampstead together in an endurance race, this car's going to win. It's almost guaranteed.
Yeah, it's one of those pairings, isn't it? And I don't really think in Scops especially there's been many people that have been as successful as that pairing has been, at least from recent memory, because they just seem to win those endurance races every year. And it's very similar theory here, so obviously different car, longer race, but if you've got a good endurance pairing, you might as well stick with it.
Now this is interesting. Josh Anderson is applying the heat to the back of Brody Kostecki. Two drivers at the top of their game, scrapping over second place here. I'm a little unsure on the situation with our current leader Tom Freer and Synergy Sim Racing, whether they're on strategy or not. If they are, they've pulled a real cat out of the bag, or rabbit out of the hat. Our director says they're not, so this is effectively the fight for the lead, and look at it, 3 of them. Whoa, that's a late block from Brody, trying to cover off Josh Anderson. Real late, that was almost a big mess in towards the chase. He'll cover the inside as well. We are getting to that point where you don't want to let people go if you know they're fighting you for the win. And Brody is buying right into that. Remember the Bathurst 1000. Brody pulled off, was it a defensive or an offensive masterclass? All I know is he absolutely took it to the veterans.
Yeah, and he might be more experienced in a real race car than a lot of these guys here, but that experience does translate. But when these guys like Josh Anderson live on a simulator, I mean, I know Josh also races in real life, but leave me alone. It's been a long day. That it's sim racing veteran versus real racing newbie, so it's good to watch. That's why we love sim racing, is you can race, some of the greatest real life drivers in real time for a 1,000th of the budget.
And just off behind them, lapping monumentally quicker, they must have bought a GT4 last lap, is James Scott for Altus Esports. He'll want to buy himself into this party as well. How cool is this? 2 Beamers sandwiching a Porsche, 3 incredible teams. Falcon Racing with the star power, Vendaval Sim Racing, Evolution Racing Team, 2 powerhouses of sim racing, and Altus Esports hunting them all down. Arguably one of the greater teams in the world of sim racing.
Yeah, and that gap is slowly dropping down. Last lap, the Ferrari of Logitech G Esports at 2:04.6. The other guys in front were 2:07s, 2:08s, so they're really slowing each other up with this, and they need to kind of get their house in order and maybe work together for at least the rest of this stint to try and save that gap. Otherwise, that Ferrari is going to be there in a blink of an eye.
Well, I think Anderson's recognised that Brody, the hot-headed racer he is, he's always aggressive, and that move on Conrad last lap may have just dissuaded Anderson from having a real crack at the moment. Heard him lift off the throttle a bit on Conrad straight, but look how quickly James Scott is coming. I wonder if Kostecki, what's this lap time with no traffic? A 2:07 again. A 2:04 for James Scott. He was... oh no, quick math. He was almost 3 seconds quicker. In fact, he was 3 seconds quicker.
Yeah, that Vendavel car, of course, was the fastest car on track with a 2:01.3 early in the race, and it's just not able to use that pace now. 2:07.5, excuse me, last lap behind Brody Kostecki. So this train is quickly becoming 4, and if it becomes fine with that SSR BMW coming up behind as well, this is going to absolutely pop off with just under 3 hours to go.
You're right. I wonder if they're looking at the end of this race and they're trying to hit a target in terms of pit stop lap, and Kostecki's having to save a lot of fuel in order to hit that number. Because I don't believe that they're 3 seconds off the pace. Their cars look very good, not much damage, if any. There you go, Brad. It's a 4-car fight.
Yeah, it's going to be 5 and even 6 if this continues for too much longer, because it seems obviously it's all the braking zones that Brody is. He's just placing his car in the perfect place because he's managing to hold the fuel up, and then he's just able to block and run, 70% over the top of the mountain where it's nearly one lane. But then he gets this run down the mountain, down Conrod Straight. There we go. I made the same mistake that you did earlier. And then he just has to defend for 2 corners, although this one looking more of the... Oh, yeah, more of the same. Maybe
Little
not.
Swipe across the bumper from Anderson. Brody's really porking that Vendaval car now. And that move on Conrod Straight. That's not a race control call. But I think someone may have irked up about it. Dylan Burse. He's called 2 race control about that move. And James Scott's made very quick work of Damon Woods. Moves himself into 4th. And this is effectively 3rd. Remembering that Synergy car up at the front.
Oh! Never mind, ignore that. GT4 just running wide at turn 2, but nothing happened, it's okay.
I saw the same thing, don't worry.
Okay, good.
Hard on the inside line. Defensive from Kostecki. Anderson trying to go the long way around at Griffin's Bend. There's no grip there. And James Scott now starting to get a siff at Vendaval. 3 different manufacturers running 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. And when will that current race leader, Tom Freer, who's absolutely skipping away, he might be playing himself into contention by how quickly he's driving. When does he pit? How far off sequence is he in that team? That's the question we've got to figure out.
It's funny you mentioned that, because I had that exact same thought, because he's running 3.5, 4 seconds quicker than this group that we have on screen now. So if he can do that for long enough, it might not be enough to cover the entire pit stop, but it's going to shave the margin down considerably. And it's just helping him and his team monumentally at the moment.
This is extremely smart driving. Extremely good driving from Brody Kostecki. As now Josh Anderson gets the rod on Conrod Straight. Can he clear him into the chase? He can, and he moves across in front of him. Brody goes for the move, back into the big braking zone, late on the brakes, really threw it in there. A little hip check. James Scott backs out of it. Anderson recovers, and Brody stays ahead. Hard, aggressive racing. It's the signature of Brody Kostecki, and he's brought it in full force, and this is a ball to watch.
It's moments like this that you forget you're actually supposed to be commentating, because you get so wrapped in with what's actually happening on screen, and this pack just gets bigger and bigger every lap that goes by. With 5 cars deep now, Riley Bilson in the DPR Ferrari's catching up at a rate of knots, with Brock Kelly just behind him as well. So we were saying about how it might have been a bit of a bad move for Riley Bilson to not be able to save his lap, as Josh Anderson trying to go around the outside again and thinks better of it. James Scott leaving just enough room for him to slot in there, but not sure what that was all about. But rear wing of... It was a misclick from our race director. There we go. He's not superhuman after all. What do you know?
Hey, it's 5 cars now. Brenton Hobson's joined the party. And Brock Kelly's coming as well. And there's a GT4 in front of them. Oh no. How do they navigate Damian Johnston? They're going to catch him in an awkward spot. What does Brody do? In towards Skyline. Dips up the inside. Can Josh Anderson follow? Yes, he can. Johnston does the smart thing there and just says, you know what? You guys go. I'm going to go straight ahead here.
I'm not touching this at all, was Johnston's thought process. I'm just going to get the hell out of the way as far as I can. And probably, like you said, the smart move, because I would not be the one to want to crash into Brody Kostecki or Josh Anderson there and just cause a massive pile-up, because you'd never hear the end of it.
That has done a bit of good for Kostecki. It's given a bit of a gap back to Josh Anderson.
No.
And that's a Synergy car in the fence. Doesn't narrow it down much. It's car 27, Kenneth Ladder at the wheel. He's got away from that pretty quickly. Stay green.
Yeah, I was really
Scott,
lucky.
Go.
No, I was going to say it was very lucky that he went in kind of rear first so he could get out of that quickly and wasn't too much damage. Otherwise, I mean, this would have just reset the pack as it is now, but that would have been very interesting and kind of a mood killer to have that safety car interrupt that battle then.
James Scott was riding the clutch into Murray's. So they're all saving fuel. Brody especially so. Hey, did you see that massive train of cars behind them? I have a feeling this could all join up and be one huge train. At the moment, it's 6 lead lap cars, and then Riley Bilson, who's a lap down. And then there's this group, a few seconds behind them. Jake Edwards getting by the GT4 of Johnston. On board with Jackson Charles. Run as high as 4th in this one, currently 11th. Behind them, Mumford's going to go around the outside of the cutting. Johnston, really not having much fun at the moment, I can imagine. Oh, Brennan gets caught.
It's an absolute mess as this part of the track, and it's so narrow. Like you said earlier, this track, games and TV don't give it that perspective, but it is so narrow through there. If you've got a slow race car, it just makes it so much worse, but all of those guys managing to navigate that bit of track cleanly enough, with a little bit of butt clenching as well to get through, but everyone went through cleanly.
Back onto Conrad Straight. Anderson's cut that gap in half back to Kostecki, but not going to be close enough on this lap. Barring a Hail Mary, of course. Really closes up at the end of the chase, though. Kostecki out of the throttle really early. They'll close right up in the braking zone. Thought there might be some nose to tail there, but they all did a good job. As hard as they're racing, this is some of the most experienced drivers in the field. And that is why they're doing so without any contact. I mean, you got Kostecki, Anderson, Scott, Damon Woods, Hobson. They're all names we see in almost every race. And it's now officially the battle for the lead, as that Synergy car out front, driven by Tom Freer, has pitted. So, a 6-car fight for the lead of the race. And Kostecki goes defensive again, Brad.
Yeah, this is... You wouldn't think this was an endurance race. You'd think there'd be, 5-lap sprint to the end with how these guys are driving. But like you said, these guys are so experienced. Some of the best drivers in the country and on the simulator. So they definitely know what they're doing. And that's why they can do this with very little fault. Brody Kostecki driving a very good defensive race at the moment. Some of the blocking could be argued one way or the other is a bit too much or perfectly fine, depending on which side of the fence you look at. But it's just a fantastic defensive drive at just the be-all and end-all of it, and the awareness from Josh Anderson as well, being able to know when to pull out and how close he can run at certain parts of the track just aids to how good this racing is.
I'm all for it. This is top-level stuff. And with 2 hours and 45 minutes, it is a 2-hour 45-minute sprint now to the end of this race. We see the back end of these races become a sprint all the time, and over recent years that sprint has gone for longer and longer as drivers do not want to relinquish pivotal positions and risk not getting a chance to fight back. That is why Kostecki is fighting as hard as he is right now. In the background, up the inside, that's Riley Bilson. He's a lap down, remember. If he can get himself through this train, he can get back on the lead lap. As into the pits comes Brock Kelly for RSR Esport. Remember, Bilson was right there with Emily Jones on the restart. He ended up off in the fence, but now he's back to where he was on the restart. Emily Jones has got the lead lap back. Bilson wants to do the same.
Yeah, and if he can navigate this traffic well enough, well, traffic is a bit of a undersettling of how talented this pack is, but if he can navigate these cars well enough or work with their pits, as we see the Altus Ferrari look to the outside of Josh Anderson, but it's more of a mental game than anything. If he can navigate this pack, then he gets that lead lap back, but some of the best drivers in the country are struggling to get past Brody to Kostecki, so I don't know if it's going to be the easiest drive of Bilson's life to get through it.
Across the top of the mountain. Lap 248. On track to hit 300. We've had 6 safety car interventions so far.
It's definitely thrown a spanner in the works because, you know, you can plot all of the potential strategies for this race with fuel numbers and potential traffic and how long a driver stint is with changes and stuff, but it was, I think it was General Moltke in the Prussian army said that any player never survives contact with the enemy, and it's exactly the same in a race like this, as you can have perfectly thought out plans, but if you get a safety car, it all goes in the air, let alone 6. So I doubt it's going to be the last one we have in 2 3/4 hours of racing. But at this point, you still got to try and run to that fuel number and just make the most of those safety cars.
Lapping, or going by the GT4 of Brad Newman, racing with Shane Van Gisbergen and Nick Foster. There'll be a couple more GT4s coming up for this group reasonably soon. They've got Justin Wallace just in front of them now. But at the end of Mount Straight is Brady Myers, just going out of Griffin's Bend is Madison Down and Mario Vartanian. So it won't be long before they start to fall back towards this group. And depending where they catch him, could make it very interesting.
Yeah, definitely can. And this lead for the battle for the lead in GT4 is just as spicy as this one for GT3, although maybe not as many cars. Just a couple of tenths dividing Mario Valtani and Madison Down at the moment, and this is why we love GT racing. GT3, GTE, GT4, it's all so close, and wherever you look, there's always a fantastic battle. But I think this battle for the lead is the one to watch at the moment.
Stecky doing such a good job driving around well off the regular pace, but being quick in all the right areas to keep himself in the lead of this race. Saving fuel and maintaining track position. So hard to do, but Kostecki's using all of his experience right now to do so excellently. Look at that train. Vulcan Racing, Vendaval Sim Racing, Altus Esports, Evolution Racing Team, Synergy Sim Racing, Simrigs.com DPR. It's a roll call of big teams in Australia.
Yeah, it really is, but we still see Josh Anderson playing the patient game and wondering if he's starting to think about a fuel number, because clearly that's what Kostecki is trying to do, is save some fuel and bring more cars into the fight so he can relieve some pressure. But he doesn't get a very good run out of Murray's, and Joshua Anderson's going to go to the outside. Breaks early, but he might go for the over-under if he can get past Kostecki's block on the apex. And he gets a really good run. If he can juke Brody around a bit, he might be able to get that inside run. But Brody says, nah, I'm just going to white line it all the way up there, and you can try your best if you want. And he does look to the outside, but it's a bit too little too late, I think.
Some games going on there. Anderson was out of the throttle, and I think Kostecki was as well. They're both balking really hard at the moment, trying to hit a number, whether that be fuel usage per lap or trying to get to a lap where they can pit and be on the right strategy. And I'm just looking at Riley Bilson now. He's got his teammate Scott Kozlowski in front of him. That Simrigs.com car is car 233. It's worked itself up into 6th. But Bilson, he's got a big chance to get himself back onto the lead lap here. Needs to be a bit brave, I think, and make some of these moves. Kozlowski can make life easy for him. There's no huge reason for Kozlowski to be right up on the bumper of this 5-car group in front. So he can let his teammate go. and give Bilson a chance to put himself back into contention.
And therein lies the problem is Sislowski could make that so easy for Bilson as well, but the racer in his mind is like, no, I'm in this battle. I need to push. I need to be there if something goes wrong. And it's trying to balance that as a team manager or your spotter, like, hey, maybe let Riley through, see if he can unsettle these guys, get his lap back, and then we both benefit. But it's that mental game as a racing driver is you just want to go faster and just get past the guy in front of you. And when your teammate who's a lap down is stuck behind you, well, there's one car out of the way as the 88 SSR car comes into the pits for their stop. But that racer mentality is just unrelenting sometimes.
Here comes the pit stop. The director says is out of sequence. It's one of the Synergy cars. They only did 17 laps in that stint. So it is a short stint for them. Car 88, Brenton Hobson, into the lane. And this is going to get awkward. Look at that GT4 of Brady Myers for Trans-Tasman Racing, car 92. They've caught him on the mountain. And this is the GT4 battle that's been going for a little while now. They've been locked in step, nose to tail, just like the GT3 group. But let's look at the GT3s because they're now stuck behind Myers. And the balking's going to get worse. Brody slips up the inside, uses the grass. Anderson's going to follow him through into McPhillamy. James Scott, will he go around the outside at Skyline? Oh, he thought about it. He's trying it. He's doing it. He did it. Very nice.
Bit of SVG-esque overtaking there, side by side down the S's is no easy thing to do, but made that look so easy. And obviously Brady Myers is no slouch when it comes to racing either, so he would have had the awareness to be able to do that. Now everyone else gets the easy way around, just down the straight, and no doubt Brody will slow the pack up again and this will resume in just a couple of laps.
Kostecki was on the clutch from the apex of the chase all the way to the braking zone.
That's a monumental fuel save if I've ever seen one.
And just having a look at who's driven for them so far as into the pits comes one of the Simrigs cars. That is
Riley Bilson.
Bilson, thank you. So, not going to get back on the lead lap. Phil Sells started this car. Cooper Murray jumped in for a double stint. And Kostecki was at the wheel for a double stint. Phil Sell and Kostecki again. So you'd have to think that Cooper Murray is going to be getting in next.
Yeah, and that's going to be another element as well, because Cooper also a very, very talented driver as well, but I don't know if he has the defensive capabilities that Brody Kostecki's put on display. I'm sure he'll have some, but to the extent I'm not exactly sure. But this is when it gets really spicy, because that battle is about 300 meters up the road, so you've got both leaders in class coming through, and they're both in excruciatingly intense battles.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to get away with this, the two GT4s. I think they're going to be caught down the mountain. Kostecki's going to have to be a little bit patient for a couple corners, but the pain's not going to be as massive. In fact, they'll probably catch him at Forest Elbow, so this might work out perfectly for these two leading battles.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of, you know, having spotters, because Brody isn't going to be there alone, so he's like, okay, this is the delta, we need you to just slow up just a little bit more through the S's, please, so that'll get you to the elbow, and then you'll get your nice clean run down the straights, get a bit of extra draft to help him with his troubles. And now it's going to be who can pass before the chase and who's going to have the difficult pass of going side by side, and second and third get that difficult task, but turns into nothing in the end.
Madison down, given a little opportunity to have a look at Vartanian here. They're side by side. It holds up Damon Woods for Evolution Racing Team and Scott Kozlowski. And, oh, now where do they go? They're on the other side of the racetrack. And up the inside, up the very inside, goes Damon Woods. He did not want to get held up any longer. As into the pits came... Who was that? Just missed it. But someone dove in from just behind this group. As there's even more GT3s getting ever closer to the lead.
That was Muck 1 Esports number 333.
Wow, look at that from Madison down. A big run. He lets a GT3 go. And now he pulls out. But he lost his momentum. And Vartanian will hold on. For now.
And that's the big hanger, isn't it? It's for now.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It is a 9-car train for the lead in GT3 with 2.5 hours remaining. How about it? How about this car on the train? Michael Brennan, 5-Star Motorsport. We saw him doing pretty much what Brody's doing now, earlier on, when he was a lap down. It's paid off for him. He's in the fight for the lead. They've been as low as 40th in this one. Currently 9th. Almost the highest they've been all race.
And it really goes to show that, you know, these races are long and it can flip so quickly from bad to worse or bad to good, and you just got to kind of persist with it, as excruciating as that can be sometimes. But we just had someone serve a drive-through or a pit lane penalty. It was the Sim Rig 73 car, so that would have been why Riley Bilson came into the pits just before to serve his penalty. So they've cleared that now, and their biggest thing is to try and get the Empower Summit Sim Sports BMW that's about half a lap in front of them.
How important was that move where Anderson got by Kostecki, but he threw it back up the inside and retook the spot? If he hadn't have done that, Anderson would have sailed off into the distance. But as it stands, there's now 9 cars fighting for the lead of this race. In fact, it's 10 cars.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane. I'm sure probably some of those guys in that mid-pack probably didn't quite think that they were going to be fighting for the lead of this race. Maybe at this point or at all, but Brody's just, he's being a nice... Everyone can have a go. That's okay. Let's all come here. Let's make this really entertaining. And it's not going to be long until, you know, even the Fishy Motorsport car that's a minute off the lead is going to be here as well. If these guys keep it up for another 2 hours, Fishy could get a podium. And that's not something I said. Oh. Sorry?
I'll tell you who's moving. Daniel Yeaman. He's picked up 3 spots on this lap. One of them was the current pit lane. But he looks like he has no intent of slowing down. Racing for the Cozy Drop Bear Motorsport team. Trying to haul himself to the front of this field.
Yeah, it's been a really topsy-turvy day for those guys. I know they were caught in an incident with one of the Fishy cars earlier on, and it was no fault of their own, but they got a drive-through penalty. But that's racing sometimes. You've got to cop those penalties. So I'm sure Dan and Cam and their crew are very happy to be in this fight. And our special guest has just arrived, Mr. TriStar Motorsport. Brent Tucker is here. Welcome. It's been a long time.
Hey guys, it has been a hot minute. How are we? Enjoying the cracking race so far?
Something along those lines.
Yes, it's going well. Your car's in this fight, Brent. How are the nerves as we see Damon Woods fighting back on Daniel Yeaman as Kostecki really balks him into the chase. This time, everyone has to check up massively. Woods almost picked up an extra spot on Matthew Bowler. Oh, there's almost contact on the exit. It's starting to get real dicey now as into the pit lane comes Josh Anderson. So he says he's had enough. He peels off and he's going to pit. And into the fence goes Damon Woods from Evolution Racing Team. Bounces off the tyre bundle. And a whole host of cars slip by. He's going to tuck back in behind James Ruwalt for Pace Syndicate, who is a lap down. So back to P9 for Woods. Brent, your thoughts on this race so far?
Yeah, now we can actually kind of sort of breathe. To answer your first question, my nerves, they're okay. The guys, I was just in the Discord before, and they're kind of working out how they can best deal with this. So I think they're looking at potentially coming in shortly. I left in mid-conversation, but the race has been absolutely cracking. Compared to last year's race with, how many safety cars they had, I mean, I've been out of the race, been out of the sim for a couple hours now, but there was only another handful of safety cars throughout the period where we weren't on the air. So it's been really, really clean, long stints of green running, which is always good, and it's really interesting to see how the strategy is playing out, especially with everyone's driver availabilities and how they're, going to try and put their best drivers, obviously, in for the last couple hours of the race going forward.
I'm really curious to see how much longer the rest of these cars go now that Anderson is pitted. With that pit stop, Anderson will be out there absolutely blazing a trail, going full tilt.
It'll be interesting to see if some of these tail mark at the back end of this battle group happen to come in as well. Try and get that fresh air and actually maybe jump a couple of their competitors in this battle train, in this train as well. So you're all right. It'll be interesting to see who takes the stop within the next 2 or 3 laps, I reckon, and try and get that fresh air and not be held up by a considerable train of cars.
I always say in endurance racing, sorry Brad, that you can never truly tell who's going to win or who's in contention for the win until that final stint. And this is as true as ever in this one, as we have a look at this fight between RSR and Synergy Sim Racing, Brad, side by side of the chase.
Yeah, it's BMW on BMW, so even footing between them, and the 89 just coming out on top rather convincingly, to be honest. And it's so easy to do it's not easy to do, as we see the drop bear car coming in for their stop, hoping to make the most of some clean air as well. And that is Robert Gibbs, new to the team in the car now, so it'd be interesting to see how he can go. Predominantly a LNP driver, so not much GT racing for him, but still a quick guy nonetheless.
Battle for 6th position. Make that 5th. Michael Brennan, 5-star Motorsport. They're into 5th. What a comeback this has been for them so far. Jason Harmsworth, the HCR Jinx Shifters. Haven't seen much of this car all day. And Damon Woods back there after his little excursion at Murray's Corner, trying to fight his way back up. Doesn't look like he's got too much damage from that. Thankfully it was a tyre wall he hit. So, pretty soft impact in the end.
Yeah, I think he hit it at such an angle that he kind of just rubbed alongside of it. And he's got a really good run out of Forest Elbow now. He's already side by side at the King Kong Conrod. So if he can continue that momentum down into the braking zone, and he pulls ahead now, just coming over the crest under the banner. And that's move done. He's just got to try and hold that position and not pussyfooted into the braking zone, and that's all done. And yeah, as easy as you like.
What did you say?
Pussyfooted.
Is that politically acceptable?
I mean, you've said worse on stream before, let's be honest.
You're right. Into pit lane comes one of those cars we were watching. That's the HCR Jinx Shifters machine. Bran, as a team boss, I expect you to have all the answers here. What are the numbers we're looking for in terms of stint length, and then in terms of how long they're going to be stationary for?
That is a good question. Honestly, today I've just been sitting back, just watching. I've just been letting the guys deal with it as it comes up, which has kind of just been our strategy. Just take it as it comes. Be liquid, be fluid. Just have some plans in place to be able to react quickly when the time comes for it. But other than that, yeah, we're just flying by the seat of our pants. I think that Joe is clear now. I saw Blake in the pits before, so Joe's minimum driver time is done. So for us, it'll be Blake and Mr. Sam Sutton through to the end. Not sure how they're going to work that out between them, but that's kind of the plan here. Is just, I think the guys will be trying to get their slowest driver minimum stints done, and then from there they'll slap the fastest 2 boys in for the end of the race, or girls rather, in for the end of the race, and go for gold. We did see Brenton Hobson passing Mitchell McLeod before down into the chase as well. I'm not sure if that was a move for position or not, or whether or not he was just overtaking, but So that's kind of the play at the moment, I think, for what the teams are doing, is just because it's really difficult to tell in terms of safety cars, when they're going to fall, whether or not, how many random safety cars we've had, stuff along those lines. So it's just very much kind of see what happens, let it happen, and, react where possible.
Daniel Yeaman has been deemed at fault for Damon Woods in the tyre bundle, so that car has been handed a penalty. And with 68 laps to go, you can pretty much almost put a driver into the end. So that might be the number they're all aiming for here. Get to lap 65 to go, and then put in your best driver, or the driver you want to finish, whether that be Cooper Murray for Falcon Racing, or whether it be Andrew Kyle, or who's the third driver at Altus Esports? James Scott's in the car now. Cody Dythe. I think it would be Andrew Kyle. He's only done 30 laps so far. But the issue with that strategy, Brad, is if you estimate 65 laps to go, and then for whatever reason you get 66 laps to go, by the time you get there, you're going to have to come in and swap drivers.
Yeah, or if you get, like a safety car with 68 laps to go or 71 laps to go, then that completely blows that strategy out of the water as well. And that caught a lot of people out last year as well. I think it was in the middle of the race or towards the end of the race. Some of the drivers went 2 or 3 laps over the maximum driver time. I know NSR Esports was one of those teams as well, because I was in with them and they were not very happy about it. But those things happen, and it's such a gamble to have that number, and then, your fuel or a safety car just blows that out of the water. And it's going to be interesting to see if we do get to that 65 laps to go, if we do have a random safety car or people pitting before that, because, it's going to be almost their race over if there's no safety car within, though, that 65 lap window if they have to come in early.
We also might be slightly further away from that number than anticipated. Jay, our director, said 68 to go. But one of the drivers racing, Cameron Dance, has questioned that number. So, find out. James Scott, he's not been able to make any more progress than Josh Anderson did, given the opportunity behind Falcon Racing BMW. He is just sitting in there, and I think he's even more comfortable at sitting there than Anderson was.
James will also be... Oops, sorry.
No, go ahead.
James will also be playing it fairly safe as well, because they have used their fast repair while we were off the air. So it won't want to try and do anything offline, because as you can see, all the marbles offline will be very, very... it'll be as what we refer to as a big slippery dip. So he won't want to put any wheels offline or try to go offline as little as possible, and try and keep that car clean through to the end, because if they do have a major crash, then that's obviously going to be their day done and dusted. So something that James and all the Altus crew have to be cognizant of, in these last 2 hours and 20 minutes, as to it's all well and good to kind of go for ham, but they still need to be very, very cautious of the fact that they don't have a fast repair up their sleeve should anything happen.
So just wanted to do a comparison. The last lap was a 2:04.0 for Kostecki. He's got back on the throttle. He's moving with some vigour again. And that might be partly because the Vendaval car is in clean air, also doing low 204s. And they don't want to get jumped by Josh Anderson, who's still at the wheel. He's been in since lap 233, they're now going up to lap 260. So that car's going to have to come back in pretty soon, in the next 15 or so laps.
Yeah,
so it's going to be a short stint here.
They may potentially put Dylan Burse in as well. Juani Lopez, I think, is the third driver in that car, was just slightly off the pace compared to the other two guys. So they may be running Josh as long as possible to try and, narrow down that lap number, as you said before, and then plug Dylan in for the end of the race.
Now, we caught a glimpse of a second there for GT4, the battle for the lead. Not sure that sentence made sense, but carry on. It's still extremely tight between the R8G Guest 888 car and the Trans Tasman car of Madison Down, who's at the wheel. it's pretty much identical to the GT3 fight. They're both just waiting to hit a lap where they can pit. Madison Down shown no interest in trying to go for this overtake. And Vartanian's happily leading this one. Looking at who might drive this car to the end, it was Madison Down with a short stint to start. Lee Ellis hopped in for a double. Brock Salmon did a double. Another one from Lee Ellis, Brock Salmon, and Madison Down. So I'd suggest probably, well, actually it's hard to guess off that. Maybe Lee Ellis might jump in for the end. And over at R8G Guess, Caleb Hyde, Mario Vartanian, and Vad Kimichev. We saw a great opening stint from Kimichev. Caleb Hyde hopped in after him. Vartanian had a play. Hyde and Vartanian the last 3 stints, so it'll be Kimichev to the end for them. And they're just getting ready. It's that stage of the race, Brad, where everyone's waiting to the last stint. They're setting themselves up for that final stint, that final run home.
Yeah, it absolutely is. It's like just everyone cruising in their pack in the Daytona 500, waiting for, 30-ish laps to go where you can pin and make it to the end. And it's the twilight zone of endurance racing, because so much is happening, but also not much is happening at the same time, because everyone's just gearing up for that final stint and double stint. With, if we have like mid 60 laps to go, which might be about accurate at a smidge over 2 minutes a lap, it's just about time to chuck, like Brant said, those fast guys into the end, without having to worry about maximum driver lengths. And it's just about hitting that number, but that number is so many question marks around it at the same time.
This fight, Brad Newman just made his way by Justin Wallace, I believe.
Just to interrupt, Madison Down has had a major accident coming down the mountain. After yes, he is heavily in the wall, with significant damage to the front of the 77 McLaren.
He got helped. He was helped by Jason Harmsworth in the Jeep Shifters machine. He's pile drived a second place GT4 car over Skyline. And Madison Down has got going. He is going to get back to pit lane, but do they have a spare car? That's the big question. They do, says Jay. So great news for them. Let's take a look at this, Brant. It was at Skyline, so a little ways to go. But what's your view on this? What happened?
I just caught it out the corner of my eye, and as you said, it looks like the HJR Jinx Shifters car just come over Skyline and was caught unawares, or tried to go down the inside, and unfortunately, yeah, just absolutely hammered Madison. And that was a real shame, because on lap 247, Madison's lap was a 13.777, and then the R8G was a 13.768. So ridiculously close between those two cars, and they've been at it all day. So that's a great shame, but Madison does have that fast repair to use. So going to lose a little bit of time, but still plenty of time that, we'll get a safety car and they can potentially make that up. Only takes one minor incident for that to happen to the 888 car, and then, it'll be even again. And a black flag has been served to the HJR car, as we probably so rightly expected. So unfortunate for Madison, but lucky they did keep it clean, and that's the biggest thing in these endurance races, is to keep it clean until the final 2 hours and then start to nail it home.
So Lee Ellis has got into that Trans-Tasman car as predicted. Probably not on the lap they wanted, but he is in nonetheless. They can do a max of 85 laps, the GT4 drivers, so I imagine he's into the end now with absolutely no question over it. And the point I was making before that happened was of the sister car to the one on screen, the Falcon Racing GT4 machine, who's just been passed, in fact, by Justin Wallace. In fact, they're going back and forth. Wallace was ahead of the line for Analytical Racing Oz Esports, but now he's behind him again. We're expecting SVG to hop into the end, based off the recent stints. And when he does, that car is going to rocket towards the lead of GT4, and there's going to be an almighty battle on between RHE Guest to try and hold them off. And I was going to say Trans-Tasman 77, but now they're trying to fight back as well. Trans-Tasman 92 are just in no man's land at the moment in GT4, in between the leaders and that SVG car and Justin Wallace for Racing Oz.
But like you guys have both said, and we will continue to say for probably the next 2 hours, it doesn't take much for a safety car to come up around a track like this, especially this part of the race where everyone's been at their sim for, well, since probably 6 or 7 o'clock this morning getting prepared. So people are getting tired, even if they've been able to go and walk around the house or whatever, as the Altus car comes in for their pit stop. This is going to be really interesting between both the Falcon car and the Logitech G Altus Ferrari, depending on when Brody comes in and how quick that Altus outlap is. But yes, that fatigue hour and the fatigability of this racing is really starting to become prevalent, and will only become more so as the race drags on, and that's when we're going to see more incidents and more safety cars. And then both TTR cars, the Falcon car, are all back in for that GT4 battle, and all those GT3 cars will be back together once again, and it doesn't take much.
Yeah, this is big. This pit stop from Altus. And no surprise to see the Falcon racing car able to go longer than everyone else. As we're looking at the Synergy cars in the pit lane, there's the Altus car. Someone get the Gojacks out for that Racing Oz machine. It is ready to head in to the garage, and it is going to be Andrew Carl that hops in, and this will be to the end for him. A 2-hour stint and change.
One thing I do want to quickly point out, Bendable Sim Racing are already partway through turn 2 already, so the gap that Josh Anderson has managed to pull by pitting early, even if they might be a little bit off sequence, is absolutely astronomical. So if he got a couple of good laps in and then managed to match Brody's pace, who's just dipped below a 204 with a 203.999, this could win them the race. Obviously safety cars and traffic and whatever, but if he's had one solid half of this stint, that gap that he's put on the Altus car was huge, and Brody was not far in front of that Altus car when it came in.
No, he was not. So remember I said at the time he's going to blaze around and probably put himself into the lead of the race. Seems to be exactly what he's done. There is the Falcon Racing BMW. Brody Kostecki continuing on again as side by side on Conrod Straight. That's Luke Rosella edging ahead of Sean Anton McLaughlin, using the old lag switch to get by there. Bit of internet drama for him, but move complete. And McLaughlin might be happy to see a car with some internet issues ahead of him rather than behind him. Less chance of accidentally getting punted, and in fact McLaughlin's pitted just off screen as we're on board with Altus Esports now. Into the chase. Does he pull the trigger on Bradley Ratu? Yes, he does. Andrew Carl up the inside and on the attack straight away, moving up the order.
Now the big $1 million question is, when is Brody due for his pit stop? Because he pitted on lap 233, so that's 31 laps now. So unless he saved an extra 2 laps of fuel, then I am probably going to expect him in this lap. But he was going 6 seconds a lap slower, so I mean maybe he has managed to do 32 laps of fuel, but I guess we'll find out in about 25 seconds. And that's going to be huge, because where is Josh Anderson is 40 seconds behind, so depending on tyres and lane transition, this could swing quite heavily one way or the other.
And looking at the stints, Cooper's only done what appears to be a double stint this race. So it looks like Cooper will be the driver to take the Falcon 69 through to the end of the race, as Brody doesn't pit this lap. He goes around for another. So you'd have to think that he'd come in at the end of this lap. The end of this lap he's just started, that is, to do a driver change in a full service.
Well, he's gone again. Pure mileage extraordinaire, Brody Kostecki. Just going by the Australia-wide racing purple car that's come out of pit lane. McLaughlin's hopped out of the 115 there, and Glenn Watkins has got in. And that car was running 6th. But obviously, now that stop's been made, they've gone a lap down. And the race has just settled a little bit. It was all kicking off a minute ago. In fact, it's still kicking off between Falcon Racing 50 and Analytical Racing Oz. These two have been at it for a number of laps now. And they're wheel-to-wheel into Griffin's Bend again. On the outside for the BMW M4. Not going to work out there. And Newman is just doing the best job he can do to not lose a ton of time. He's trying to minimise the time loss, I should say, before Van Gisbergen, we expect, hops back in to go to the end. As we just saw a glimpse of the R8 G car coming out of pit lane.
Is Brenton Hobson in 6th again?
Scott Fontaine jumps into the wheel of the talking aggressor number 71. We expect that car on the fence soon. Sorry, Fonty. Scott Fontaine, co-owner of SimSpeed TV. And as a result, recipient of much abuse when he's in the car on stream.
Or in the director's booth?
Yeah, but that car's going quite well, actually. Was inside the top 10 for quite some time, not that long ago.
Of course, Talking... Sorry, I was going to say Talking are absolutely no strangers to endurance races either, so they're probably hoping for a better result, but they're probably also playing their cards kind of close to their chest at the moment, because they have a way with that. So I guess we'll have to see what Scott Fountain can do. And hopefully, like you said, he doesn't throw it in the fence in 2 laps' time.
Picked up the Vendaval Sim Racing car here. Just in behind the M3, the BMW. And just making sure he picks the right moment to go by. As in the pits, there it is, Cooper Murray hopping in the car. Australia's ace of Porsche racing at the moment. Getting ready to, hopefully, he'll be hoping, wheel a BMW into a winning position at Mount Panorama. I've just noticed the Racing Oz car has potentially got the Gojacks. It's no longer pointed at an absurd angle in towards the garage. There is a sense of normalcy back in pit lane. There's the rejoin for Cooper Murray for Falcon Racing. And he is a long way behind Anderson, who's now at the cutting for Vendaval. But we think that Vendaval car short-fielded a little bit. Remember, they have to do a short stint. So as such, they don't exceed the 65 lap limit for maximum stint length. Anderson hopped in a lap 233, it's now lap 265. So they've done 30 laps. My math's wrong. They're well fine.
I was going to point that out earlier, but I wanted to wait for you to realise the error in your ways. So
yeah,
they are still anytime. They are still fine, but yeah, they are also slightly off kilter as well. With that, what we think is still a short stop, so they will be fine, but it is still slightly off kilter.
I still think they short field. It just wasn't because of the driver issue.
I'll give it to you, just because I'm feeling nice at the moment.
How generous. Mountain Straight looking a little busy at the moment. There's Brady Myers driving with Jake Maloney and Richard Hampstead currently leading this race. haven't yet made a pit stop for this cycle. We've seen stops from the 77 Trans-Tasman car, although that was a little premature and involved a spare car, and we've seen a stop for iRacing Guest as well. Currently a 30-second lead for that combination ahead of this car, who's just come into pit lane for their pit stop, and this will be Brad Newman out, and, well, it should be Shane Van Gisbergen in, ready for a big stint to the end. And you've got to imagine SVG will drive this thing right to the front and be in contention, as up on the jacks it goes. Straight battle for 15th. Simon Nicholson and James Glasspool, 2 Ferraris in towards chase at 260, and out the other side with Nicholson ahead for 5-Star Motorsport. Robert Gibbs in the Drop Bear Motorsport in Cozy Car just behind as well in the Porsche, looking for a way by. Remember, this car has fought back from a black flag for that incident down here at Murray's just after we picked back up the stream for the final 3 hours. Contact with Damon Woods in that instance.
Yeah, all the guys at Drop Bear Motorsport are all in a chat together. There's about 5 or 6 of them there cheering their car home, as I'm sure is pretty much every car out on track at the moment. And Robbie getting his first proper consistent taste of GT3 racing, and probably one of his most competitive tastes. As he might be a 6K driver, but that's in a lot of other types of machinery, and he's really showing these guys what he's worth, even with those 2 penalties that that car has received throughout the races. Lap times are still well within the region that they need to go, and just trying to get past James Glasspool, which is no easy feat, let alone at a track like this.
Just notice as well, Brand, even despite that shunt forcing them into pit lane early, car 77 is not that far behind their class leader. It's just gone over the crest in the distance. No, that's not the overlay we're looking for. There it is, 4.5 seconds. All in all, it's not worked out too badly for them.
No, they were, yeah, like as we said, very lucky to have that fast repair happen, and lucky that it had that fast repair up their sleeve, sorry, and lucky it happened, 2/3 of the way through the lap, as opposed to on the first or second corner where they had to limp it up the mountain, then subsequently, down the mountain and into pit lane. And it looked as though it seemed to be a fairly front-on hit, so there wasn't too much crabbing for Madison as well, which didn't slow him down as much as it potentially could have. So, all in all, not the worst case scenario for the 77. But, they're definitely still in it. I think nearly all the GT4 runners are all on the same lap. So, all it'll take is just one safety car to bunch this group up again, and I'm pretty sure everyone watching is going to get sick of us saying that, but it's just the nature of these endurance races that, one safety car can turn the head on its heels. And this is Bathurst. We saw it in 2019 when the EBM 912 Porsche won. We had a safety car very, very late in the race, which kind of brought them back into contention. And that's all these cars that, are a lap down or towards the end of the lead lap need. It's just that one safety car, that one saving grace, and bada bing, bada boom, they're back in it.
2 hours have just elapsed on the clock. We'll take a quick break here on SimSpeed TV, and then we'll go right to the end, ad-free. It is going to be an almighty fight for the win in this 2022 Logitech G OSR Bathurst 12 hour.
What does it take to win? Is it something you're born with? Is it the grind? Every day. Gear up. Do battle. For the 10,000th time. Or is it pushing to your absolute limits? To be faster. Always faster. Insanely precise. one with the game. Or maybe it's just getting to that place where nothing else matters. Nothing in the way of winning.
This is iRacing, the world's premier online racing game. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat to experience today's newest form of competitive motorsport, virtual racing, all from your home PC. Race virtually in endorsed series from NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, the World of Outlaws, Aussie Supercars and more. Take on legendary circuits like Daytona, Silverstone and the Nürburgring. Join iRacing's global online racing community and get on track today at iRacing.com.
Welcome back to Mount Panorama. There's a lovely shot of Metal Grey using all the road to hook themselves around the top of this mountain. A little slide there from the Evolution Racing team, BMW. It's the 2022 Logitech G OSR Bathurst 12-hour live here on SimSpeed TV. We're going right through to the checkered flag here. 1 hour and 55 minutes to go. And this one is shaping up very nicely, as so often it does in Endurance Land on iRacing, to be a grandstand finish. I don't think we're done when it comes to safety cars. We haven't had one for a little while, but as we get towards the end... Oh, car on the fence. Angus Cook at the cutting. Just watched him nose it in. I think he's got away with it. He's going to carry on. But as we get to the end of this 12-hour marathon, Brad, the driver fatigue kicks in, and mistakes like this one from Angus Cook in Power Summit start to happen.
Yeah, they definitely do, and this isn't, you know, like Phillip Island or even Sandown where there's a decent amount of runoff. As we get that replay now, if you fatigue, you're in the fence. This is a Apparently we might get a safety car because, reminds me of Jamie Whincup 2020, that sliding out wide on the marbles and smacking into the fence, and no safety car apparently because he's parked well off the racing circuit. So that's both good and bad because these guys will be running to their fuel number, and safety car will throw that up in the works, and we're not quite in that last stop window either. But there are some cars that are slightly off strategy, like this Vendaval Sim Racing white car is slightly off normal strategy, trying to get past that analytical ruse BMW GT4 car. It's like just send it into the chase for good measure. Pretty good move. I rate that one.
That was, do you reckon the guy in the BMW needs a new change of underwear after that? Because I think I do, after seeing how close Josh got to that number 20. Number 20? The
Yes.
Velocity Simlabs BMW, yes. Very, very close there. Probably a little bit closer than what was required, but 269 is requesting a tow.
Oh, and that's not the car of Angus Cook. Oh, no, it's not.
No, it's
It is.
55.
They've corrected their number. They said 269, and then they said, wait, no, we're 55. They've been granted a tow, and we stagger in. I want a safety car. I want to see a sprint. When that safety car comes out inside the last 2 hours, it turns into an all-out sprint race. I've been calling it a sprint for a little while now, ever since Brody was at the head of the pack, saving fuel, but bring that safety car out and it will kick right off, as there is your leader in GT4 being overtaken on Cromwell Straight by a trio of GT3s battling for a position just outside the top 10. Simon Nicholson at the head of their strain, then Robert Gibbs, and then Jack Boyd, who's gone for a lunge at the chase. Really good on the brakes there from Car 88 out of the Synergy Sim Racing Smith & Son stable. Not much Robert Gibbs could do about that.
No, it always baffles me how late these guys are breaking into the chase, and it might just be like the camera angle is kind of amplifying how early they are, like giving a false sense of security. But we've seen it with Josh Anderson, and now with the 88 SSR car as well. So it's just insane how much the ABS helps these guys out, so they can just send it like that and have no repercussions, because every time I see it I expect to see them in the gravel.
Maybe if you would drive.
Yeah, probably.
Sorry, it was right there. It's low-hanging fruit.
That's probably fair though. I won't deny that. That's why I'm not racing.
Me too. Phil Letch. Sorry, our director's just picked up on the fact that it's absolutely got nothing to do with the fact that Brad doesn't have a wheel. What's the story there, Brad? Why haven't you got a racing wheel?
Well, because my wife is 28 weeks pregnant and we've moved in with her parents to have some support when the baby comes, and there's no room for the sim, so life priorities took over.
Not the answer I wanted. It's too real of an answer.
How dare you, adult?
What did you want?
Yeah, how dare you be an adult?
What do you think this is?
Kindergarten?
I think that's the wrong angle to approach that from, but we'll run with it.
I feel like I've been in kindergarten with you two.
Moving on to a more sim-related subject of conversation here, lads. The 89 is getting absolutely pestered by the Vendaval Sim Racing car. He's only 0.4 of a second behind, so very, very close. 89, rather. Did I say 89? Either way, 89 is what I meant. We'll roll with it. So, yeah, getting very, very much pestered by the 36 car, as obviously that is a positional change, but the 89 may be requiring to come in soon, and Josh will be wanting to try and get past him and get back into that clean air so he can try and continue to maintain that gap to the ever-fast looming number 69 Falcon Racing of Cooper Murray at the wheel.
Good pick up there, Brent. This is the battle for the lead. And remember, that Synergy car, it was in the fight earlier on. It was skating away while Kostecki balked the pack. Tom Freer was at the wheel at the time. Now it's Luke Rosella. So you've got one car well out of sync. You've got one car slightly out of sync. And then a massive gap back to the cars that are on what we think to be the normal strategy. It's 16 seconds back to RSR Esport, and it is a short stint for Vendaval. Glad to see that come to fruition as they dive into the pit lane. So Anderson will hop out. We expect Dylan Burst to hop in. That releases some of the pressure on Luke Rosella. And curious to see where this car rejoins. I believe it has to be at minimum a 30-second stop with a driver change. So, going to be somewhere behind Mark 1 Esports, XCM, around those two cars, I think. It is indeed Dylan Burst that hops in to car 36. Obviously, a driver change in the sim is infinitely easier than a driver change in real life, so there's a 30-second minimum time to sort of even that back out. As we see here, the two Trans-Tasman GT4 cars, Richard Hampstead in the 92 has gotten ahead of car 77. Last lap, he was 1.4 seconds quicker than Lee Ellis. So, very quick stuff for Richard Hampstead, who's now second in class. The leader in GT4 is halfway up Conrod Straight. So they're on the same straight. Straight is Conrod, but they're on the same straight.
Yeah, Lee Ellis just really not quite having the pace to match Madison down or his fellow TTR drivers in that Porsche either. So it's really turned that race on its head, even excluding the incident with that McLaren, because this Lee Ellis getting in the car was inevitable. Obviously, it was probably a little bit earlier than they were expecting, but this pace was inevitable, and I don't know if he's on a monster fuel save or what the go is, but it's just pace isn't just there.
2051 for Cooper Murray, 2049 for Andrew Kyle, 2064 for Matthew Bowler for Pursuit Sim Racing. I think we can expect both Falcon and Altus to be in the top 5 at the end of this one, and right there for the lead. I don't think they're too worried about the Synergy car up at the front. Oh, spinner at turn 1. That is Jordan Ross in Synergy Sim Racing car 143. Looks like it's kept it out of the wall. Looks like there's a redress going on here from Rob Carmichael in the Fishy Motorsport car. So, contact, you would think. Here's the replay from Virtual Racing School. Brandt.
As we see the 808 come out of the final corner, and the 143 trying to defend on the inside there. Oof, a bit of directional changing going there. And as we see, yeah, unfortunate. It looked like a little bit of netco potentially too as well from that angle. Hard to tell, but the right thing being done there by Rob, I believe it is, at the wheel and redressing that immediately. It could have also, I was also expecting it to potentially be, it happened to Joe, earlier in the race, just the BMW just loses the rear there occasionally, but in that circumstance he, got helped, whether it was through netcode or physical contact. We'll wait to see what the stewards have to say about that. But the big thing with Cooper Murray at the moment is he's going to be wanting to get past this Pursuit Sim Sport car.
Bowler hit the fence right in front of Cooper Murray. Murray got a piece of him, and Bowler now facing the wrong way. And I believe that stemmed from the internet. He actually blinked out right before he hit that fence, and that probably had something to do with it. Now he's in a really awkward spot.
This is a shocking position to be in this late in the race, and hopefully these boys still have a fast repair to use, because he's going to have to just basically pinball this car along those barriers to get it turned around. And it looks like he's got a fairly solid gap there and able to get it moving without impeding anyone. So very lucky, but also, I guess on the same token, super unfortunate as well that actually happened in the first place. But he has been blinking for the past couple laps, so that now nullifies my comment about what I was saying with Cooper wanting to get past this car quick smart because of the looming Logitech car. So we can scrap that original train of thought, I guess, can't we?
I wonder how much damage Cooper's picked up from this. It was a screen freeze, apparently. That will explain that.
And again, that doesn't seem to be an uncommon thing, because again, Joe had the exact same thing in the 111 car happen earlier in the day as well. So yeah, it's strange that there's been a couple guys suffer. Joe's was, I think, more frame related rather than a screen freeze, but it's interesting to see that a few of the guys are having some of the same issues in parts of the same circuit throughout the race.
Just having another look at the replay. I wonder if, as he blinked out, his iRacing picked up some phantom contact from behind that fired him into that fence, or whether it was just that screen freeze meant he couldn't pick his braking point or turn-in point. We think that Falcon Racing have gotten away with it. They didn't even get a 0x for that. So, absolutely nothing detected by iRacing on their end, and they live to fight another day. That is a warrior, that BMW car.
What that does now is that frees up the, they have 5 seconds, I believe, to the 155 RSR eSport BMW ahead of them. So Cooper now has few laps of clean air probably to, put in some solid laps before coming up on the next car that he'll have to take the whole process of overtaking again. As we see this battle with the 88, the 692 and 255 car really continuing to rage. The 5-star Motorsport cars dropped off the back a little bit of these front 2 runners in this 3-car battle pack here, but they've been glued nose to tail together for probably close to half a dozen laps now. And these are positions, battles for position as well.
Yeah,
GT3 field get cleansed now as the leaders pit. Brad?
I was going to say there are battles all throughout this field. It's not quite what we saw before as the drop bay car just kisses the Falcon wall at the exit of the Forest Elbow. And we've got this one on screen as well. The Logitech G eSport is as close as they've been since start of that pit cycle to the back of that Falcon Racing 69 BMW. And it was a bit of a scare earlier with Matt Bowler fencing it right in front of that BMW, but I guess the fact that he didn't get that 0x really adds to the fact that it was iRacing and Matt Bowler's PC just having a bit of a moment more than anything else, and they soldier on still, despite their lap 1 poor scenario that they were in, and it just shows that these races don't necessarily end on lap 1 if you have an incident. It nearly did. But these guys soldier on, and now they're in this super intense battle again with the Altus Ferrari just behind, and Vendaval is at half a stop behind, but I'm sure that that's not going to take much to flip that on its head either.
All I know is that with 1 hour and 41 minutes still to go, there is no predicting what may happen, as our 2 GT3 leaders race in lockstep. Here's Phil Letchford. This car, he's dragged to 3rd place for XCM, which I think stands for Cross-Continental Motorsports. Now I understand why it's called XCM. Jason Bentz, Phil Letchford, and
sorry to interrupt. Altus has got in front of Cooper Murray in the chase. They are now effective race leaders.
It came from about 20 metres back. I think Murray was just riding the clutch there. Didn't see that one coming. Here's the replay. Very clean move, this, from Andrew Carl. Pulls the trigger late. Leaves Murray with no choice but to let him go. And now, the lead swings in favour of Altus. Does Cooper Murray try to fight back, or does he use this as an opportunity to save even more fuel riding in the slipstream of that Ferrari?
We'll probably see Cooper start to just slot in behind this Ferrari, let Altus do the work, punch that big hole in the air, and allow Cooper to just zoom right up to the back of that Ferrari. I mean, I saw Cooper bump drafting this Ferrari earlier on in the race while we were offline, so he'll be right up into the rear wing, and just, it'll be getting dirty air for sure, but he'll be saving a little bit of fuel every lap, which will obviously, potentially add up to the fact that he can go longer and subsequently have, a shorter stint at the end, which is exactly what they will be aiming to do, is try to minimize the stationary time they will be for that final pit stop as we really start to count down towards the end of this race.
Well, judging off of Phil Sell's comment over in YouTube, they want all that fuel up their sleeve at Falcon Racing. Now, the the next question, I believe it should just be one stop to the end from here. When does that stop come? What is the critical time on the clock for these drivers to start pitting and being able to make it home?
Depends on what of the 1,000 strategies you're on, I guess, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's not a particularly straightforward answer.
No, that's a it's going to be a matter of, I guess, just waiting and seeing when the guys start pulling the pulling the plugs on the I've lost my train of thought here. On that final pit stop. Obviously, probably the car that's poised best in the field is obviously the 69. They pitted a few laps later than the car currently leading the race of the 43 Logitech G Altus Esports car. But there's so many different strategies going on. It depends on what field what part of the race you're in as well, in terms of GT3 or GT4. Because remember, those guys are in the exact same boat. They can run slightly longer on their stints, but they're still going to have to make that last pit stop. So it really depends on where you are, who you're battling, what your fuel numbers are, where your teammates are, if you have any left in the race. So there's a whole host of questions and a large range of variables to actually play out before we can even, decipher who's who in the zoo and where they are in the zoo.
I think, though, the TLDR answer in its absolute most simplest form is you kind of have to get to about 57 minutes, because then you have an hour's worth of fuel and like that extra lap in case, we fall short by a couple of seconds and have to do that extra lap. But like you said, there's so many variables, safety cars and every traffic included. So that's probably as straightforward of an answer as you can give. But even that's about as straightforward as a conga line and a drunken bar mitzvah. I don't know if they have those, but that's the analogy I'm going with.
You are coming up with all kinds of weird analogies today, aren't you?
What on earth? It's the purple sold at the chase. Glenn Watkins for Australia-wide Racing Purple, trying to fend off the purple HJR Jinx Shifters car. Kind of a 209, and Brett Loxton at the wheel of that car. Gonna slip up the inside. Whoa, parked on the apex. Glenn Watkins gave him a nudge, and those two Ferraris swap around. Been an up and down day for this Australia-wide Racing Purple car. Been as high as 6th at one point, a lower 39th, currently smack dab in the middle in 17th. Back in the GT4 fight, just having a look at the lap times. Shane Van Gisbergen, as predicted, currently the fastest car amongst the top 5. A 2:13.9 for him last time by, but he is a long way behind Kimichev. Kimichev's over at the cutting, and this is where Van Gisbergen is. It's at the chase. So I would suggest that as fast as Van Gisbergen may be, he needs a safety car to bunch them back up. And once that happens, it's going to bring Hampstead and Lee Ellis and the two Trans-Tasman cars into the mix as well. They're currently sitting 2nd and 3rd, and both lapping pretty close to that of the race leader.
Because it's been a couple hours now since we had that safety car. Because we had the safety car just as you guys come on air, I think, wasn't it the last
that
one?
Restart.
Yeah.
So it's been 90 minutes.
Yeah. So it's been a long green flag run, and it'd be good if we could keep it green for the next hour and a half. But you just get the feeling that something has to give with so many battle packs raging around the track at the moment, that something or someone will have to give, and before we know it, you'll be getting your sprint you so long for, Ryan.
Well, should mention that out in the real world, they went 4 hours without a safety car in the 12-hour. I think it was in 2019.
2020.
Oh, okay. Thank you. 2020. So the last running they had in the 12-hour, they had a 4-hour period in the middle without a safety car. That was astronomical, actually.
That was tough to watch. Yeah.
I think I fell asleep, to be honest. But it was a testament to the great driving out there. And we're seeing another one from all the drivers out there now, late on. Fatigue levels are high. Cars aren't handling great. But 90 minutes green on the sim, where traditionally more mistakes happen, is a really good effort from all of these competitors.
But we see this sort of thing in like the Bathurst 1000 as well, both in the sim and in real life, is we get that bit of argy-bargy at the start, and then we get 2 or 3 hours of, calm racing and fuel numbers, maybe the occasional hiccup here and there, and then you have an echidna with 70 laps to go, and then it all just hops off, and there's just constant safety cars and bit of weather change or tire blowouts, and it just becomes unpredictable. So as you said, once that fatigue really starts to take hold, and with 90 minutes to go, this has been an astronomically long day for a lot of these guys. Those things are going to start compounding, and it's just a bit of a powder keg until something goes off, and like that DPR car has just gone off at the chase. Yeah,
that's the 73 Dylan O'Shea at the wheel, and I suspect some damage. There is a possibility of a random safety car. Remember that the number at the start of the race was between 0 and 4. We've had one random safety car. I wonder if we are in store for more than one. And there it comes in the next 90 minutes. There was contact here. From a long way back, I think that's the RSR Esports car. Just clips the left rear. Never got up there far enough, and Dylan O'Shea, unfortunately, sent into the gravel. Luckily, the gravel not nearly as gripping as it is in real life, and no chance of getting beached. This is the onboard from the BMW. He saw the gap. I mean, the gap was definitely there. The door was open, but he came from a long way back, and by the time he got there, the door had firmly shut.
Yeah, that's kind of a tough one, and it's glad that I'm not in the booth, because you could call that either way, as, he went for a gap that he probably shouldn't have. He did come from a fair way back, but like you said, the gap was there, and then it kind of closed. As we see the Vandervale car pushing to its absolute limits, nearly clipping the wall at the exit of Forest Elbow. So that incident could go either way, and I don't know if a penalty is deserved for that. Oh, they did. Never mind that then. I'll shut my little mouth.
This is the Drop Bear Motorsport car. Easily confused with the Vandervale car. Very similar liveries. Currently running in 9th place is Robert Gibbs at the wheel there. In behind Jack Boyd for Synergy Sim Racing car 88. He'll be in to the end. He did the opening 2 stint as well. And this is the closest battle on track. Simon Nicholson just off behind them in the 5-star Motorsport car.
This has been that battle that we mentioned before that's been raging for, oh god, I've lost count now, so long. And that 5-star Motorsport car gets closer, edges up to the back of the 692, then falls away a little bit, then comes back. Meanwhile, the 692 has been firmly stuck under the rear wing of the 88 car for what must feel for them an eternity now. They will have memorised every bump, every scratch, every sticker on the back of that car at this point in time.
Probably would have put another scratch on the back of that bumper if this keeps going.
Yeah, probably additional 1 or 2, wouldn't surprise me.
Speaking of the Vandervale car, they took their fast repair on their last stop. So they've just made sure that their car is squeaky clean and has all 4 corners straight coming into the critical final 90 minutes of this race. They didn't have much obvious damage, but just that last bit helps. You obviously feel now's the time to make sure everything is in order. You make a mistake at this point that requires your spare car, it's a bit too late to come back from it anyway.
Yeah, unless you get really lucky and, I don't know, tap the pit entry wall on your way in, then yeah, that's a long way to come back at this point in the race, and even then that could nearly hinder your race regardless. And I do feel a bit stupid confusing my own team car with the Vanderville car, but we usually run red, black and white, not blue, black and white, and that's the excuse that I'm going to stick with for the rest of the afternoon. But
what is the reasoning there behind the blue instead of the red?
I don't know. We just decided to change it up for the 12-hour because we ran purple at the 1000 last year, and we thought that the Logitech blue with the spec map looked good, so that was our reasoning.
Down.
Yeah. That's what I got told anyway, so if I'm wrong, don't blame me.
Oh, we're going to sue you, don't you worry.
Big court case coming your way.
Yeah,
Matt,
better watch out.
Matt Bailey dives to pit lane, RSR Esport. This will be that penalty being served for that contact a lap or two ago. It's a lonely tour down the lane at 50 kilometers an hour. And it will truly feel like an eternity for him. Going to rejoin just in front of Jamie McKnight for Synergy Sim Racing, car 27. Going back to Conrod Straight is Fishy 808 trying to hunt down Australia-wide Racing Purple. These are the second and third cars a lap down. There's just 16 cars left on the lead lap now. Very fast pace being set by the Altus Esports Ferrari out front under this green flag stint. 2:04.6, his last lap.
And we thought that, you know, this would really help Cooper Murray and that Falcon Racing BMW with the Altus car out in the distance skipping away, but they've also had to try and maintain that gap, because even if you do save enough fuel for an extra lap, you have to try and decide how much you can afford to save without losing how much time. And because Andrew Cole is skipping away at the beat that he is, that Falcon Racing car is having to keep up with them and can't just, you know, do 2-minute 10s to save fuel, because making that up in the pit stop is not going to be worth the time that they're losing each lap. So it's not exactly hindered or rendered their strategy useless, but it's also not being as simple as they thought it might be now.
Yeah. This is the comparison to the leader for your Vendaval car, who is a long, long way back. Half a second quicker, 100 slower, and 3/10 quicker. Certainly not breaking the world alight, and not on track to catch them. Need a safety car, do you, Vendaval? Or a very short pit stop. The fastest car was actually Ethan Grigol in the Evolution Racing Team entry back there in 30s. He's still 30 seconds away from the top two, but substantially closer than Vendaval are at the moment, showing good pace. And just highlighting that if we do get a safety car on a restart, just how close it's going to be, with so many evenly matched cars putting in lap times so close to one another at the moment.
I will admit, what I am surprised by is that it isn't Josh in for the end of the race, that they didn't try to reverse engineer it for Josh to be an end of the race. Whether or not Dylan is quicker than Josh, but I've seen Josh be the fast man in that car for, you know, 90% of the weekend. So from a team manager perspective, it is a little bit strange that they haven't kind of swapped Dylan's and Josh's, you know, stints around and, you know, managed it that way. But whether or not there was extenuating circumstances that played into that, we won't know. But, you know, I guess, you know, it does surprise me that the fastest guy in that 36 car, when you needed him most, isn't in there. Whether or not they tried to do what the Maranello Ferrari did with Vilander in 2018 or 2019 with that hero stint in the middle of the day, whether or not they tried to, you know, sort of replicate that, but it hasn't really come off for them at all, and it may have put them at a distinct disadvantage to the Falcon 69. The ERT... Oops, sorry, go on.
No, you go.
I was going to say, the ERT 26 has been there or thereabouts all day. They've been consistently top 5, and they've been really fighting with the 89 and the 111. The 26 and 111 especially have been stuck together, you know, sometimes under each other's rear wing for a significant portion of this race. And Ethan is still sitting in a very, very good position. As you said, we all know Ethan is a stellar driver. He was the fastest on the road last lap. So, you know, it'll be interesting to see what happens if we do get a safety car with the ERT 26, as we see the 111 in the car, of course, in the pit lane at the moment. potentially doing a driver change. We'll have to wait and see for that one. Sam Sutton is in confirmed, so the 111 has plugged Sutton in for the remainder of the race, the fastest driver out of the 3 in that car, so we'll see where they can end up with a fresh pair of booties on the 111 as well.
They can't make it home from here, can they? Can they?
No, they will need a little splash and dash potentially at the... Oh, well, not so much splash and dash, but a shorter pit stop towards the end of the race, but it will only, I think, assume probably be for fuel only, not so much tyres.
Just in front of them. Brett Loxton made a move on Fonte for Torque Inc. Currently running 15th and 16th, those two. About to be harassed by the TriStar Racing 111 Sam Sutton. And Jordan Ross. Here comes Vendeval. Into pit lane for Chop, Pear and Cozy. I've done it as well.
I noticed that, and again, I didn't want to say anything because it made me feel a little bit better about myself. It is so similar, I didn't even realise until I made that mistake, but I'm glad I'm not the only one.
Please pass on my deepest hatred to your painter for me.
I did have to squint there for a little bit just to make sure that it wasn't the Vendeval car. So, well done there, Ryan. Good job.
Battle for 15th. Very lively. Luke Mitchinson in the GT4 Racer Noz car just in front of them, making it a little bit awkward as they try to pick where to go. The Falcon Racing machine of Cooper Murray's in here as well, lapping these cars that are fighting for 15th. They all do a good job of navigating each other. 3 different paces on display there. The GT4 pace, the race contending pace, Cooper Murray, and then the cars battling for 15th, going their own pace. "13 cars now on the lead lap. Just saw race controls voice pop up for a minute there. They didn't say anything. I wonder, is that them just getting ready to call a safety car? Can one hope? Can one dream?
One could dream, but I haven't seen or heard anything over the comms to suggest otherwise at the moment. I don't see anything else on track either.
And if we do get a safety car now, this is that really awkward time because the tank of fuel in these cars will last near an hour, depending on how balls to the wall you take the car, and if you pull a Vendeval or a Falcon Racing sort of approach to your laps. But it'll definitely throw some spice up because it will mean everyone will have to pit another time. But yeah, the drivers are wanting a safety car, but now they're thinking just 25 more minutes, please. Just please hold out. And I have a sneaking suspicion that might not happen.
Variety is the spice of life. What more can we say? But yeah, you're right, 100%. If we get a safety car now, then that's going to be really, really... it'll be interesting to see if people can try and save that significant amount of fuel, or whether or not they just go for gold and then do a pit at the end, do a stop at the end for a little bit of fuel. But yes, I think all the drivers will be wanting it to fall in about half an hour or so, but I think us up here in the comms box, want it, but would enjoy it if it would fall soon-ish, potentially.
We're not going to say we want the safety car now, but if the shoe fits...
We're going to heavily imply it instead.
It's a spectator sport, folks.
We're doing this for you, people.
At the moment, there's a 4.9 second lead for Andrew Kyle and Altus Esports ahead of Falcon Racing. Evolution Racing team have cut their gap to 27 seconds. Synergy Sim Racing Kai 89 is 34 seconds away. And Vendeval have cut the gap to 47. That's your top 5 in class
There is a car around at the elbow, actually. I believe it may have been the 22, potentially. Do we have a 22 in there? No, we do not. There's a
Here we
car...
go.
There we
There he
go.
is.
Ah, we do. Haha, I did spot it. Excellent.
Oh no! Oh.
Many
Forest
screams
Elbow.
coming from the comms box just then, ladies and gentlemen.
Forest Elbow is an absolute horror show when you spin, as we've seen many times today. But Team JDR do a great job to get away with it.
Just.
Tim Altus at the wheel. I know that he should drive for. Same mistake we've seen from a few. Just losing the rear end on entry and backing it gently into the tyre bundle. Play on for that Ferrari. Not too much damage, if any, sustained from that. Running 25th is Team JDR. Or at least they were at the start of the lap. I don't think they've lost any spots because they're 4 laps down. The car ahead of them is 3 laps down and the car behind them is 7 laps down. So, pretty lonely for them at the moment. Is Cooper Murray. Jordan Ross and Sam Sutton in front of him. 3 very distinctly painted BMWs. And the Falcon Racing car looking to save some fuel here. Not looking to go by. Instead, it's all about that pit stop.
I think the million-dollar question again is, can Cooper Murray take this car to the hour? I think that's kind of a slam dunk at this point. Did it on lap, well, came out like first lap in the car was lap 266, so only 23 laps. So unless he can do, 8 laps in 17 minutes, it's actually going to be really close to that hour, actually. So he might have to save 1 lap's worth of fuel just to make sure he can get past that hour. But if he gets a safety car in the next 7 or 8 minutes, then they're in quite a bit more trouble than they are at this point.
Oh, Van Gisbergen not quite shutting the door on the inside as he has done on a few occasions we've seen earlier in this race. And that allowed Sam Sutton to go on by at McPhillamy Park. Sean Ross will have to wait his turn though until the exit of Forest Elbow, and the raw power of the GT3 outguns the GT4 on Conrod Straight. Didn't look the best of lines for SVG through Forest Elbow either. I think he made a little mistake as his teammate goes by.
You really have to place the car perfectly coming over the top of the mountain. Basically, from Reed Solomon onwards, it's single file. And spectating in the Discord with the 111 guys earlier on in the day, there was quite a few GT3s that were either too hesitant, which then obviously backs everyone else up behind them, or went to make a move and then pulled out of it at the last minute, which just creates all sorts of dramas. So, Sam did the right thing over the top of the mountain there, made sure he was very, very distinctive in exactly what he was going to do and where he was going to do it, because as we saw, once you get past Skyline down to the elbow, it's single file again.
Having a look at how many cars are still left running. Looks like 34 cars left standing in this race. Very much a race of attrition, this one today. We started with 52, down to 34. Scott Nolan in the Synergy Sim Racing Smith & Sons number 14 BMW M4 is that last car running at the moment, 14 laps down. There he is. It's definitely Scott Nolan at the wheel. There you go. They were up in 3rd in class at one point, but at the moment they're back in 6th. And they're only a lap off. So while they may be the last car running, they're only a lap off their class leaders. Whoa. That was a little bit sketchy from Dylan Burse. Oh, it's Daniel
You've done it again.
Oh man, you know what? Anytime I see those two cars, I'm just leaving it to one of you two. Because... Ooh, smoke.
I
smoke
see,
at the
yeah.
sailboat. Ooh, that's... Brett Loxton, who's had an issue.
Is that no way? That's
Done it
not
all
the
by
69
himself.
that's in
or-
the fence.
What?
What?
The 69 Falcon was involved in that accident. They were just racing the inside of the track. I'm sure we'll see it on the replay now because that incident is something we've seen time and time again. And then,
Oh, no.
No.
Oh no!
Phil Cell's saying.
They've
Yep.
already
So Phil
set
Cell's
their
saying
gun.
they're done in the chat. So that's huge. That's blown this race wide open now.
What a shame. It was a stellar performance from Kostecki, a defensive masterclass. It was a qualifying performance to be heralded from Cooper Murray, and Jared Filsell did an excellent job as well. But at the end of the day, you've got to have a little bit of luck, and they've used up their 9 lives already. And at that time, there was absolutely nothing they could do about it.
It's not only been a defensive masterclass by Kostecki. Earlier in the race, just taking a sticky beak at Cooper's stream, some of the moves that Kostecki was pulling off over the top of the mountain were absolutely insane. So he was right on it both in defense and offense as well. So that's a massive shame to see the 16 earn out. Obviously, as we've said all weekend, or you guys have said rather, not so much my ugly mug, but it's been a big favourite with 3 completely and utterly stellar drivers in that car. So to see that out now is just heartbreaking for them, and it's just blown this race wide open for both Logitech and the 36 Vendaval Sim Racing car.
Well, there's 3 cars in front of Vendaval. 2 cars.
And those 3 cars as well.
Maybe even better placed. Evolution Racing Team now second. Still 27 seconds away though. And the number 89 entry out of Synergy Sim Racing, Luke Brozella, 36 seconds off at the moment. Officially retired from this race, car 143, which was the car at the front which caused that incident. And a retirement as well for the Falcon Racing GT3 entry.
This is those little incidents that start to rise, as we've been saying. It's all about getting to that final 2 hours, that final 1 hour, and you don't want to be caught up in these weird little incidents. And it was just a very lazy loop from Loxton as well. It was nothing too untoward. So it's just a little bit of luck, as you said, Ryan, but also just fatigue and the dirty track offline. Numerous things have just unfortunately added to that, and yeah, it's a massive shame to see. But the show must roll on, and we've got probably half a dozen cars now that may potentially win this thing if we see a safety car.
Yeah, and critically, despite that crash taking out a couple of cars from the race, they got back to pit lane under their own power, so no safety car. And I think Altus, it's hard to tell, they've got that lead. Like you would say, well, they're probably favourites, but what's the fuel situation? Are they going to have to sit stationary for longer than Evolution Racing Team? Are they going to make it to the critical lap?
Well, I think no. Looking at my timing, I'm not sure what you guys have on your end, but the Altus car pitted 29 laps ago, so they're going to have to come in this lap, surely, unless my timing's incorrect, and they do. So Evolution Racing Team still have 4 or 5 laps until they're due into the pits as well, so they can make the hour. Altus can't, and that's huge. Like 10 minutes of fuel is not a lot of time, but it easily win you or lose you the race.
Big moments in this one. Evolution Racing team are going to inherit the lead of the race for potentially the first time that we've seen today. Ethan Grigol wheeling this car, and it is the first time they've led all day. Peaking when it matters. They were down in 27th, but with an hour and 8 minutes on the clock, they're at the front. An 11-second lead over Luke Rosella for Synergy Sim Racing. And in third place will be Vendeval. Dylan Burse at the wheel. There was a conversation earlier, I think it was you, Brent, mentioned a little surprised they haven't put Anderson in the car for the end. And didn't make the strategy play out for them to put Anderson in the end. I think it's fair to have Burse in. I think they're both pretty equally matched when it comes to pace. I think Burse can very much do the job here.
Oh, Dylan is an absolute gun, having seen his performances in the ASCC Championship in the Pro Division on Sunday night. So definitely, yeah, he could. Well, it's not a matter of he could. He definitely can do it and has the abilities to do it. But, you know, I guess just from looking outside in as a team manager, you know, you'd want to have your dead set fastest guy in the car for the end of the race, as we see Dylan just getting held up by SVG coming down the mountain, unable to stick that Porsche, or Porker as we affectionately refer to it as, down the inside at Skyline there. So he's going to have to wait until the elbow to just breeze on by. Probably smart thinking as well. He doesn't want to do anything stupid. He will have seen the 69 car, you know, hit the barrier and retire. He'll know that he's still in with a very good shoe in, and doesn't want to do anything too silly.
Into the pits comes the GT4 Trans-Tasman entry. It's car 77, Lee Ellis. This should be the final stop for this crew as well. They haven't led today, but they've been in and around that podium fight all day long. Also in the pits is Jeremy McKnight in SSR car 27. There are 3 Synergy Sim Racing cars around that top 10 at the moment.
So this will be an interesting spot for that 27 to be in, because it's just shy, just ever so slightly shy of that 1 hour mark that Brad keeps mentioning. So they're going to have to try and squeeze as much fuel as conceivably possible, run this thing on the smell of an oily rag if necessary. We may even see them run to a fuel number and bump the engine mapping down as well, which is obviously something you can do in these GT3 cars. So very awkward time for the 27 car to have to come in and pit. But, you know, we'll see how it plays out. But again, this is what I said before. One of those 127,000 different strategies that we're seeing playing out in the final 1 hour and 4 minutes, 1 hour and 3 minutes of this race.
And it could still all mean nothing if a safety car comes out and ruins it for those drivers trying to nail their strategy. Picking up McKnight here, getting caught behind SVG. No massive hurry for McKnight to get on with it. That car behind him is not a fight for position. Excuse me.
Now this is really where that a 26 ERT car can really get the shaft. If we get a safety car now, everyone will pit, but everyone will be on the same fuel strategy. There's very slim chance that everyone can save 2 laps of fuel, and it might be that some people try and save those 2 laps of fuel and some people just try and blast the fuel as quick as they can and then come for a splash and dash and see which one wins out. But at the moment, I think it's ERT's race to lose. If they can get to that hour mark, they have a significant advantage on everyone else. But if we get... Oh, never mind. Ignore everything I just said.
Well,
And again, this is the same situation that the Synergy car's in now, that there's going to have to be a little bit of fuel saving to do. And I think I saw Mr. Brenton O'Brien mention in the chat before something relating to a fuel map, so they may have potentially been running around, running that engine a little bit leaner, saving a little bit of fuel. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with potentially 2 extra laps for them to have to do to try and, make it on this 1 hour. So as always, guys, Bathurst is throwing up a whole host of wildcards, a whole host of different strategies that we're seeing unfolding. And as usual, it's coming down to what's the good old saying? You don't want to be there for the final hour, and that's what a lot of these teams are aiming to do at the moment.
I think more importantly, after that stop, Ethan Grigol has track position over Andrew Cull in the Altus Ferrari. It's 3.2 seconds coming up to turn 2. So not only do they have a longer fuel life in them now, they also have track position, which, if there is a safety car, is going to mean an absolute buttload of time and positions once they exit the pack and are in that queue. But that is also a very big if to hang on for the rest of the race.
Just having a look at something and crunching some numbers into one of our race contending cars. If we go back to our rules, we keep talking about that maximum driver stint of 65 laps for GT3s and 85 for GT4s. There's also the max total laps you can do. For a 3-driver team, you can do a minimum of 25% race distance and a maximum of 40% race distance. For 4 drivers, it's 20% minimum and 35% maximum. So if we say that this race is going to be, how many laps do we think? 320? More than that.
325 is what my timing says at the moment.
James Scott has done 42% then. Altus Esports. So that's something to keep an eye on.
And we've seen how strict race control have been with those figures, with the HBC car unfortunately having to be forced to retire over 1 lap. So, 2% could potentially be 2, 3 or 4 laps over. It's not a whole lot, but race control have been very, very strict and very adamant on those rules, just as they would be in real life, as we saw again in 2019, totally because that's not my favourite Bathurst 12-hour ever, with Alexander Imperatori in the 23 KCMG Skyline getting scrubbed from the... that was due to a penalty. Drive-through penalty not being fulfilled, not driver time. Scratch that.
So Evolution Racing team.
Oh.
Synergy Sim Racing.
And the 43 is... Oh no, sorry. They were leading, but they're no longer in the front.
They pitted, remember?
Yeah. Never mind. All good. I'm having a moment.
Evolution Racing team with their strategy mastermind of Brenton O'Brien, Vendeval. I'm not sure who their strategy mastermind is, but there's a lot of experience in that team. Synergy Sim Racing are a huge conglomerate of cars entered into this race. Between all of them, they all have the strategy nailed down to a T. And Altus Esports, usually absolute show-in to nail the strategy with Simon Feigl at the helm. But I wonder, as we saw the driver laps on screen a minute ago, 138 laps completed for James Scott, which would be 42% of a 325 lap race. We'll keep an eye on it. I'm sure Race Control are looking into it, double checking everyone's maths. But for now, we are under the 60-minute mark. There is 59 minutes and 27 seconds to go in the 2022 edition of the Logitech G OSR Bathurst 12-hour. current race leader, is Dylan Burse. Vendaval have gone to the front, extending this stint. The longer they go, the shorter their pit stop is going to be, because they'll have to put less fuel in. So how much further can Vendaval go here? It could put them back into proper contention, because remember, they were about 47 seconds away.
Well, Dylan has been in the car so far for 17 laps, so he's just eclipsed half of the stint length that car will do. They get it to about 30 laps, so they're 2 laps over that, about to be 3, and that's a big window for them to work with. If there's a safety car at any point between now and half an hour to go, they can do the pit stop that they need to do and not really lose any time, minus the time behind the safety car. So it's not like they have to pit in 2 laps and then a safety car comes in 5-6 laps after that, then they're in trouble. So they have a nice big window to work with. It's just, if that safety car comes, and when that safety car comes, is it within their pit window, or does it come in that last half an hour after they've already pitted?
They continue on. It'll be 55 minutes to go next time they come to pit entrance for Vendaval Sim Racing. Ooh, Dylan Burse has done 115 laps. And there's still about 25 to go, so he might need to get out of the car as well. And hand over to Josh Anderson.
Yeah, that's going to throw a spanner in the works as well.
May even be that they have to swap over to 1E Lopez potentially, because he's only done, I think everyone in that car's done 2 stints looking at the time, so it'll be very, very, very close. So as we've alluded to, as we get to the final half an hour, 20 minutes of this race, keeping an eye on those driver times and who has to go into pit lane, because if they have to do a driver swap, that's going to be longer than a fuel drop, more than likely. So, that's going to severely impede them and impact their time. So if we don't get a safety car, it's going to be absolutely bonkers, balls to the wall, fun for everyone to the end. If we don't get a safety car, it's 100%, 110% going to be a strategy race to the end. And those who have managed their drivers and their fuel will have come out on top. It's as plain as simple as that.
Well, still plenty to play out, it turns out, in this race. Vendaval stretching their fuel, looking for a short final stop, but potentially needing to do a driver swap. Been an incident for Scott Fontaine out there on the racetrack. Race control having a look at it. Got to find out where the talking car is. Car 71, that rear wing is looking a little unhealthy. It was down at turn 1, and they were, oh no, Ethan Grigault into the side of Fonte. This would be a tough one for race control.
Yeah, have fun with that, guys. I would not want to be up there, up in race control for that, because yeah, if Ethan gets a drive through or a stop hold, then that's gonna, well, again, blow this race wide open. But looking at the replay, he may have been far enough up as well. So this angle I'm looking at, he may have been up far enough, but from a different angle, it might be a different perspective. So we'll have to wait with bated breath as that one gets investigated, as Paul Fonte gets unceremoniously shunted into the pedigree tyre barrier there.
So, of our top 3 cars, we've got the leading car under a cloud with the driver currently in, about to exceed the max percentage allowed for a driver of the total laps. The car in second is fine and is actually in the lane right now, Jack Boyd. As long as Jack Boyd stays in the car. If he hands over the car to either of his teammates, they're going to be in trouble. And Evolution Racing Team in third will have a race control investigation over their heads. And sorry, I was on a replay. Jack Boyd has very much completed his pit stop and gotten back out there and stayed in the car. So all good at Synergy Sim Racing.
Yeah, this is not so much the battles on pack that are possibly going to decide this late, although that's a TBD as well. But all these number crunching and potential penalties are going to blow this top 5 wide open, with SSR Smith and Sons number 88 looking like it's going to be their race if all things go to the wayside. But apparently no penalty for the 26 ERT car for that contact turn 2 with the Torque Inc car, so that's probably a massive sigh of relief for them. But still, that pending safety car, and I don't know, I think Ethan Grigol will no doubt be fine on laps. He definitely is. So this is just going to be pending on that safety car, and which driver has the faster car after it.
Vendaval Sim Racing, 47-second lead. How short is their pit stop going to be? In the lane, back in the GT4 fight, the car that was leading, Richard Hampstead, is going to rejoin. Quite a ways behind. I thought he dropped off the Jackson, went then, but he dropped off the Jackson, stayed stationary. He's going to rejoin about half a straight behind Kimichev, who's now leading for RHE Guest 888, and that's the gap in GT4. Falcon Racing are third. They're still at the chase. They need a safety car, even with SVG at the wheel. He was 0.6 quicker than Kimichev last lap, which is just not quick enough. And Vendaval go again as we hit lap 301. 300 laps complete in this race. Cracking pace being set. With 51 minutes to go, how many more laps are we going to get in?
My timing still says about 3:26, but these guys still have, for the most part, one more pit stop to go. Whether that's a splash and dash or a decent size fill up, which obviously Vendaval have that bigger window, so they can take as much or as little fuel as they want. And that could really play into ERT's hands if they have to do a bigger stop than them, who we predict are only going to need, 2 or 3 laps. But
Mark 1 come to pit lane. Jesse Butler, he's been in and he's going out now. Currently 15th. They're up in 5th at one point. And they're going to rejoin straight into a fight with Australia-wide Racing Purple moving across to just cover off that inside line at Griffin's Bend. And Glenn Watkins will look to the outside in his purple Ferrari. Plenty of marbles on the track at this stage in the race. And Watkins finds him out there and finds that there is no grip on those marbles. It's very close between Grigol and Andrew Kyle on the racetrack, ERT and Altus Esports. 2 Logitech G sponsored teams. Very much no affiliation though, outside of that sponsorship. They're 50 seconds behind Vendaval. So Dylan Burst is stretching that gap. I tell you what, I do wonder if Vendaval might even come out ahead. Still on the lead.
they definitely have a gap big enough to be able to do that. It's at 49 seconds now, and unless they decide to do a driver change, which I think most of us here are advising that they do if they don't want to get a penalty for driver excess as well. You could put Josh back in the car or Wani Lopez. That would probably get you to the line with a couple of laps to spare. But yeah, I think their gap at the moment, and with them lapping 2 or 3 tenths a lap faster than the ERT car. They're definitely building a safe enough bubble for them to work with and still get out in the lead, especially because they probably won't need tyres and they won't need a full tank of fuel.
This will be a straight-out dogfight now for the 26 and 43 cars. There's no traffic between them, and there's only like about 6 tenths of a second between the two cars. So, if not closer than that, as we see the Ferrari or the 43 Ferrari loom right up underneath the rear wing of the 26 M4 GT3. So, this is going to be on for, to quote one of our illustrious Mark Scaife, young and old here. But this is definitely going to be something to watch out for going forward, as we see the DPR sim rigs just hanging in there behind. Because we have to remember, if these two have a significant crash, then that's going to just blow it wide open for Van der Waal, and the rest of the podium spots will be, well, for anyone to take at that point in time.
Yeah. They've done 28 laps, and into the lane comes Dylan Burst for Van der Waal Sim Racing with a 50-odd second lead over Evolution Racing Team and Altus Esports. He nails his pit entry. This is the car that started on pole position, courtesy of Josh Anderson's heroics yesterday in qualifying, snatching that pole by 0.04 of a second from Andrew Carl for Altus Esports. They've been up and down the order today, but with 47 minutes remaining, they're hoping to get in and out of the lane ahead of ERT, and Josh Anderson does hop back into that car, so there won't be an issue with driver time there for Dylan Burst. He ends with 120 laps completed. Still in the lane for Anderson. Here comes Ethan Gregault and Andrew Kyle to Murray's corner, and on to the main straight. With Anderson at the wheel, though, you'd fancy their chances of catching up any time behind they are, but they're moving out of pit lane. There he is on the inside. There go Ethan Gregault and Andrew Kyle, the top three. You can throw a blanket over them. That's the gap with 45 minutes left in this race. It is going to be a grandstand finish.
It's going to be absolutely fantastic to watch. Brenton's saying in the chat that the 26 car is right now, so we'll have to monitor that closely and see if Mr. Brenton is telling porcupines or whether or not it's actually true. But this is going to be a phenomenal finish for the final battle as well for these top three positions, as we see traffic ahead. Oh, that's not traffic. Sorry, that's actually Ethan. My bad. As we see 1, 2, and 3 all line astern, covered by mere tenths of a second coming across the top of the mountain.
And while we may suspect a breach of driver time for Altus from James Scott, we won't officially know till the race is over, so they will fight tooth and nail for this win on track. Gonna make it just a little bit more exciting. They've got a big gap back to 4th and 5th, which is two Synergy Sim Racing cars. Car 89 ahead of car 88. And as we head up Conrod Straight, looking back at that Ferrari lurking through the rear view camera, we're not getting close enough, and still fuel saving is Andrew Kyle.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a monumental effort to get both the BMW and the Ferrari home without a stop. Brenton does say that ERT car can make it on fuel, but that could all just be a bit of mind games. We won't know until that car does or doesn't come into the pit stop. Altus, as usual, keeping their cards very close to their chest, but this Van der Waal car has been quickest on numerous occasions this weekend, and all three of these cars have very specific parts of the track where they're quick, and that's why we love these cars, because you can have three vastly different cars. That sounds like a spinner up ahead. No, it wasn't. That was just my game messing up. Never mind. And oh, wow, that Van der Waal car's already passed the Logitech Falcon, so, or the Altus Logitech Falcon. So he's not wasting any time trying to get past.
The Yeah, it's definitely a
Nice.
Ferrari.
Oh.
No Falcons here.
There's no Falcons out in Bathurst today.
What? Well, yeah.
Well, there is that Falcon. Different type of Falcon, though.
It's okay. Reese called a Mustang a Ford Fusion last night, so that's my one for the weekend.
Alright. We'll give you it.
Thank you.
So, between Anderson and Grigault, there will be no quarter given. I'm not sure that Altus can make it to the end anyway. They pitted 4 laps before Ethan Grigault. It'd give him over a 30-lap stint to the end if he do go to 3:26. So, they're probably in trouble in that regard as well.
If Anderson gets past Egg here, it's race done. Unless we get a safety car, hands down, Anderson will just walk away with this. He has been supremely quick over the course of the weekend, and unfortunately with the 555 car coming to an untimely demise from whatever scenario has happened to them, you know, they were probably one of the few cars that could...
Up the inside, he's done it! Josh Anderson, just like that, goes to the lead of this race. There was no fight there from Ethan Grigault. And Andrew Kyle's going to go by him as well at Murray's Corner. He wants to follow Anderson through. It's all change in the space of 1 lap. Evolution Racing Team go from 1st to 3rd. That 4th car in line is Riley Bilson. He is 2 laps down. Simrings.com.
And we can see Anderson already starting to open up a bit of that air gap back to the Altus Ferrari. So he'll be hoping that these 2 cars behind him continue to scrap just so Josh can hop, skip and jump away in that 36 Vendaval Sim Racing Porsche. The other big battle to watch at the moment is XCM and the 88 car. They are separated by 0.6 of a second going up Mountain Straight, heading towards Griffins as we speak. So that's going to be probably another battle for position to watch. It'll be interesting to see the fuel numbers with those 2 particular cars as well.
Checking in on the GT4s. Vlad Kimishev leading the way for iRacing Guest 888 with Caleb Hydes and Mario Vartanian. These 3 have done a sensational job in a extremely stacked pool of GT4 teams. They've got a big gap over Richard Hampstead. I was looking for the seconds there. They're both 14 laps down. So it's 11 seconds. Thank you, Jay. Between 1st and 2nd in class. And last lap, Himichev extended the gap by a further 0.3. Madison Downs, another 10 or so seconds back in 4th. And again, another 7 or 8 seconds back to Shane Van Gisbergen in the Falcon Racing McLaren. So things are a bit more spread out in GT4 than they are in GT3. Though Anderson's trying to turn that around as he does a 2:04.2 that lap, 2:04.7 for Andrew Kyle. And over at Evolution Racing Team, it's only a 2:06.
So we can see Anderson's already opened up a 1.1 second gap on the 43 car. So he's already started to disappear as we anticipated. And we're hearing that XCM do need to stop again. So that'll probably be for one of those short short stop and goes for fuel. So it'll be interesting to see just how many cars throughout the field do need to manage that short little splash and dash towards the end of this race. And that could potentially spice it up as well.
Oh, there was door-to-door contact between Shane Van Gisbergen and Andrew Kyle going through metal grate. They get away with it, but that's really held up the Altus Esports Ferrari. Here's the replay, thanks to Virtual Racing School. Van Gisbergen back to his usual move of covering off the inside across the top. He didn't leave much on the outside at the same time for the Altus machine. That could have been a car on the fence so easily.
It's moments like that that you can kind of understand why they started to wean out the multi-class racing for the Bathurst 12 hour in real life. Of course, we miss seeing the Bath cars having to try and navigate incredibly faster GT3 cars and Cup cars and Mark cars and everything else that you can think of, but it's a lot easier when you don't have to worry about the GT4 traffic on a track that's barely wide to go 2x2 for most of the lap, let alone when that car is significantly slower than you are. So most of the guys have done a really good job today, but it definitely just adds to the mental fatigue of this place, is having to navigate those GT4 cars.
And it's little moments like that that could bring a late twist with a car on the wall and a safety car. 38 minutes to go. So the chances of a random safety car intervention are gone. But driver fatigue is at a race high right now. Drivers getting to the end of a double stint at the back end of a big 12 hours. There's one team that is praying this race goes green to the end. It's Vendaval Sim Racing. Car 36 is running away with this one. That's Drop Bear and Cozy. I knew that this time. Into the lane for a late top-up of fuel and a change of drivers, judging by that momentarily skip there from the car. Cameron Dance hops in. There's your race leader. It was a 4.3 second gap at the start of this lap. It's down to 4 seconds now. Some traffic for Anderson to navigate across the top in the form of TTR's Madison Down and his McLaren.
That one is definitely the Vendaval Sim Racing car on screen. It is not the Drop Bear car again. I did have to take a double check again just to make sure, because I didn't want to make my little stuff look.
Wow. From Horsey that started, every GT3 car out there has used their spare car. And I think there's only a couple of GT4s that... There's only 2 GT4s that haven't. So out of a 52 car field, just 2 are running in the same car that they had at the start.
It's going to be a testament to how well they're driving and how well they've managed the traffic, because everyone talks about, you know, the faster class having to manage traffic and get around safely, because obviously it's their responsibility to pass quickly, but it's also about the slower cars, the GT4 guys, being predictable and running their same lines, and if they are going to move out of the way, picking the right time and place to do it. And that's how the RAG car has been running in the lead for most of this race, is because they're managing that traffic just as well as the GT3 cars and just not making any stupid or random changes of direction. And that BMW is, unfortunately for the Vendaval car, doing the exact same thing and just being predictable and sticking to the same racing line.
Anderson will sail on by with Porsche power onto Conrod Straight. It seems, with 35 minutes left, that we have our obvious favourites. But you can never say that with certainty. It's endurance racing, and it's Bathurst. 2 things that always throw unpredictability right up until the final moments. Lap 310 about to begin for Josh Anderson. I mean, what a drive it's been from this team. Anderson himself, he was tasked with starting the car after qualifying it on pole. Now he's tasked with bringing it home. And he made such quick work of Altus and Evolution Racing Team. They really had no option to fight him. He was there, and suddenly he was gone. and from his teammates as well, Dylan Burse and Juani Lopez. They've just put in the miles, put in some consistent laps, and I think even though they've used their spare car, they only used it just to straighten up the 4 corners. They haven't really been in an incident. Touch wood.
I was about to say, don't say that too early. We still have 34 minutes and 1 lap to go. But yeah, they have driven absolutely phenomenally, and Altus have as well, minus that pending miscalculation as ERT and a lot of, like, even less esports before their incident as we came back on the air as well, drove really well. So a lot of guys have been putting their best foot forward this race, but Vendaval have just put 2 and 3 steps on those good foot forward. It's nearly been an absolutely dominant run, excluding the 69 Falcon car kind of bunching that back up, and even then they just played that perfectly and got them into the position they're in now.
Hard luck story there for the 69 Falcon, having to take the spare car on lap 1 after getting rear-ended at turn 1, and then staying out of trouble largely since then. But unfortunately, when they come across that one incident that can't be avoided, they get collected, and they've got no spare car left to repair themselves with. As we see Velocity Sim Labs in the pit lane, Paul Bryan at the wheel. They're up in 6th at one point, this team. As here's XCM up the inside of Synergy Sim Racing at the chase. Nice move from the Ferrari, and probably into the pit lane at the end of this lap for Jason Bentz, based off the last time that car was in the pits. And yep, in it comes from 5th place. That'll elevate Synergy Sim Racing car 88 sorry, into 5th, and that's 2 SSR cars in the top 5 now.
And there will be a driver change we're hearing as well, otherwise they too will be disqualified for infringements for driver time. So this will extend that driver, that pit stop, unfortunately, which will drop them down the order, because that will mean it'll be an extra 30 seconds, well, 30 seconds for the driver change at minimum. So probably longer than the fuel for this stop, unfortunately, for the XCM car.
.31 minutes to go. It will be bated breath all around at Vendaval Sim Racing, just praying every other car out there keeps it off the wall and drives a nice sensible race home. And what's working in their favour is there aren't too many red hot battles out there where drama could stem from. All those major positions have sort of been settled through the strategy leading into this final stint. Paul Bryan there looking for a move on Adam Hughes. That's not for position. They're 2 spots apart, but 2 laps apart on the leaderboard. Oh, never mind. That pace car is for position. That pace car is 2 cars ahead. He's got to get by this crisscross racing machine of Adam Hughes, and then the GT4 of Vlad Kibichev before he can have a lob at the Pace Syndicate car. There's one off the list, and this is actually the closest battle on the track at the moment. So we'll keep an eye on this. This is the battle for 20th place.
This is the difficult predicament you're in. If you're Anderson, you have a 4-second lead to 2nd place of Andrew Carl, who we are obviously still waiting to see what happens with them, even though I think there's probably going to be a slam dunk result on some very rough math here in the booth. But Josh Anderson has the time to get past these guys, but he also doesn't want to be at the risk of them having an incident and he being caught up in it, so he needs to get past them quickly. But they're also fighting for position, and that's going to be their biggest priority. Even if the leader of the race is coming through, they don't care. They want that next position, and it's such a very on-edge teeter between the two. But hopefully Josh can get the run out of the elbow for his sake and get a nice draft on these two, and maybe one of them makes it easier for him and he can get both of them, but I guess we're about to find out. But it's such a difficult scenario to be in if you're 19th and 20th and still fighting for position.
On board with the Velocity SimLabs car. In the mirror, or the camera, you can see the white BMW being attacked by Joshua Anderson, but he couldn't make that move. Good job from Hughes there under brakes. Anderson might become slightly distressed at the thought of a car turning across his nose, as into the lane comes the Pace Syndicate car, and that's a free spot for Paul Bryan and Velocity SimLab. Up into the top 20 they go.
That's kind of taken the pressure off that, because you could imagine that at this point in time they're not going to be worried about making a nice clean move. They're going to be trying to bomb it up the inside potentially to get that position as these minutes count down, which obviously could potentially lead to an accident and a subsequent safety car. So that's kind of relieved the pressure from that battle, and I guess allows everyone in the server to, you know, breathe a sigh of relief, and, you know, allow them to just continue on and hope that, I guess, for the Vendaval car, that they don't get a safety car, because if they do, yes, Josh has to do this work all over again, which no doubt he would more than likely do with ease, but it'll just bunch everyone up, and we all know the saying, safety cars breed safety cars.
You wouldn't want too many with 27 minutes to go. Someone kissed the feds in the background. They're all still pushing the edges, pushing these cars to the edge.
We knew what you meant.
Yeah, I'm not sure I did. It's that point.
Have some faith.
The brain fog sets in. I'm just circling through every car in iRacing, just constantly looking to see if anyone's suddenly fenced it. All it takes is one little error.
It does, and it's so easy to do, especially anywhere between, you know, turns 2 and turns 19. It's especially easy, but I don't think anyone really wants to be the person to do it. I'm going to make another analogy, and you're going to love it. It's 1869. France and Prussia won a war, but neither one wants to start it, is how these guys are attacking. This is everyone, well, not everyone, but a few people want a safety car, but they don't want to be the one to initiate it. So I know we want one as well, so I guess we're kind of indifferent with who starts it up in the booth, but some of the guys out on track are in a slightly different situation.
There goes Emily Jones up the inside of Jesse Butler. Not much you can do to fight a car that is quicker in a straight line. 14th place goes the way of Trans-Tasman 184. They've been up and down the order. High of 10th, low of 30th. They were the final car in the field to use their fast repair, which is why their car looks brand new.
I thought there were still GT4 cars that had their... Okay, last in GT3 to use their fast repair. Yeah. Getting fed misinformation by our director in the booth, with 2 GT4s still having their fast repair, so that was the last GT3 car to use their fast repair.
Yeah, you're just trying to spice it up later on in the show. Here's a replay. On board Team JDR. XCM going by. You know, I'm surprised at the lack of incidents we've seen at the chase. I shouldn't have said that. They've all got away with it very nicely. They've all been very respectful through there. And with the exception of that big off for Brady Myers in the Trans-Tasman racing car, which I don't think was actually caught on the broadcast, but I did see it when I came back before we went live again. There hasn't been much drama there, at least not that we've seen. Ooh, The gap to the lead in GT4 dramatically closing. The Triple Eight lost 4 seconds on this lap.
But the Triple Eight has just exited the chase as the 92 car is just, well, now exiting the chase as well. So they have the length of the chase basically down to Murray's corner between the two cars at the moment. So it has closed up very, very rapidly with Kimichev still at the helm of the Triple Eight car and Richard Hampstead at the helm of the 92 car.
Where did that 4 seconds go? There we go. We found the missing 4 seconds. Into the cutting. There's Flame Energy.
Oh.
Well, someone was asking for an update on Flame Energy. There they are. And that's why Kimichev lost 4 seconds. Goes to show anything can happen. Luckily for him, he had a big buffer. And at the moment, the gap is still 6.7 seconds. Still be comfortable for now. Pulled in 5.4 seconds last lap. And 2 laps before that, he pulled in 1.1 seconds. So not completely isolated that lap. Singing the tail in GT4. Richard Hampson at the wheel. Team
Oh no,
WJ.
we've had a spinner at the skyline.
Whoo! That didn't look like a great place. That's Luke Swan in the Iridium Sim Sports Blue BMW in the GT3. Facing the wrong way. Does the flick spin. Now he's on the racing line. And he's got a gap where he can get going again. We'll stay green. Get a replay of this, thanks to Virtual Racing School. All by himself, I suspect. Wow, just got away from him. Little nose into the fence.
It was
I reckon
lucky that
pretty
the
well.
yeah, it was lucky that there was no one around, so he had plenty of time and space to get that one pointed in the right direction. But very weird incident over McPhillamy, and lucky he didn't bounce back across in front of the Trans-Tasman washer either, because that would have been a disaster for them to have both cars involved in incidents with no real fault of their own, especially this late in the race. But this is on for RSR Esports and XCM, fighting over 8th and 9th position down into the chase, and RSR get it done as easy as you like. Oh, never mind, that was a lap car.
That was the 22 car that the 155 just passed.
As we watch this fight, the point I was making before we had that spinner was that Hampstead is paired up with Maloney and Brady Myers. When Hampstead and Maloney get together, it usually goes very well. It's usually in Scops, but endurance racing, one and the same. That last lap was a pretty good one for Kimichev though. He was 1.4 seconds quicker. Eked out that gap a bit more. There they are. Car 92. There's the 1.4 seconds that went missing last lap. Just under 20 minutes to go. Oh, that looks a bit messy. They're stuck behind Madison Down in the 77. Phil Letchford's got Brock Kelly for close company. 8th and 9th. There's a couple more GT3s in there who aren't fighting for position. Just behind them as well. They'll make quick work of this McLaren on the straight. Unfortunately for that 77, just nowhere near the top two. And pretty comfortably ahead of the Falcon Racing car in 4th at the moment. It's not particularly exciting for the team over at Car 77, as the move is thought about from Brock Kelly. He tried to chase him over to the inside. He couldn't quite get there. Letchford hanging on for now. Ferrari versus BMW. Letchford defending the inside for Murray's corner. Really late on the brakes for Letchford there. Kelly trying to switch back and get that run up the inside. Swings out to the inside on that middle of that racetrack. Can he go late on the brakes? He goes for it. Lunges up the inside. And Kelly goes through for RSR Esport. Great move. Works that for a few corners.
Now it'll be interesting to see if the Ferrari can gain over the top, down the mountain and down Conrod straight into the chase again. He just has to stick with him in that draft. And then come Conrod, he should be able to steam right back up to the back of him. So we'll see how this battle unfolds. It is looking like our closest battle on track at the moment, as Josh Anderson has opened up a neat 8-second gap on the Logitech G Altus Esports Ferrari number 43 at the moment.
Speaking of said Logitech G Altus Esports car, tongue to getting tied. Jesus Christ, let me start that again. Talking of the Altus Ferrari, they are now in the pits, as you see it on screen, for their final stop. And I don't suspect a driver change because Andrew Carl has only done 84 laps.
Yeah, our director says about 10 laps to go in this one. They were short on fuel. They're over on driver time. It's not been quite their strategy.
It's parked
from Altus Esports, and they've parked it. They know they've not hit the numbers right today, and there is a penalty coming their way for disqualification, so they'll park it up now, not get in the way in these closing stages. It is a shame. You do like seeing Altus up there fighting, but it goes to show how easy it is to get it wrong, and how good a job Vendaval Sim Racing have done so far.
RSR Esports managed to hold XCM down Conrod and into the chase, so they've actually managed to open up a little bit of an air gap now, rather a fairly large air gap to XCM now, so RSR Esports are clear now in P8.
Put Synergy Sim Racing onto the podium. Wayne Burke. Car 89. Racing with Tom Freer and Luke Rosella. Oh no. Luke Rosella has done 128 laps. Is that acceptable? Or is that going to be right on?
You'll be right. I think for the current, if we're predicting a 325 lap race, 130 is the maximum length, the maximum amount of laps rather, any one driver can do, pending if they are a 3-car driver lineup.
They are. He's at 39% if the race is 325 laps long.
So he do be very, very, very close. So hopefully SSR will be aware of that, and that's going to unfortunately mean that it's going to be a fairly long pit stop for them to do a driver change.
Gaps now out to 10.8 seconds. Sorry to cut you off, Ryan, between our leaders in class, and Brenton O'Brien's still very adamant they can make it on fuel, but he won't say lap times needed to do that. So it's going to be very interesting to see how close their math is. They're only lapping, 1.2 seconds slower than the Vanderbilt car in the lead, and only 0.6 slower than the 89 and 88 SSR cars in 3rd and 4th positions. So they were close to that window when they pitted, so I'm not expecting a huge amount of fuel saving, but it's going to be interesting to see how close they can get and how little time they're having to sacrifice, because so far it hasn't really been too much.
So Ethan's last 5 laps from 3:13 was a 4.5, and then a 5.3, then a 4.6, then a 3.9, then a 4.6. So not really saving a whole lot, as I hit the wrong button here. And we compare that to Anderson, who has done a 3.7, a 3.5, a 3.6, 3.7, 3.4, and a 3.9. So very consistently in the mid to high threes for Anderson in the 36 compared to the 26 ERT car.
Hearing from Brenton O'Brien that the Evolution Racing Team car is good on feel. So they're looking strong for that podium. 11 seconds behind the race leader though, but 14 seconds ahead of Wayne Burke for Synergy Sim Racing. There's 6 seconds between the two Synergy cars. So a GT4 at the wrong time might open up a battle there, but for now, Wayne Burke comfortably ahead of his teammate Jack Boyd, who was also a few tenths slower on the last lap. 12 minutes to go.
Refresh my memory. Who was the driver that needed to pit this lap? Being very well for the driver swap, being very close to the. Okay. Yep. So they're in the clear. So they're all good. Yep.
Brent
Sure.
having a conversation with our director there. A one-sided conversation to those of you at home.
Nah, it's just the voices in my head.
You have those too?
Oh, yeah. Uni will do that to you.
Oof. There is Wayne Burke. Car 89, the car in question. That is good to the end. There is no doubt there. They've nailed their strategy. And they've had a pretty good race at Synergy Sim Racing. 2 cars inside the top 5. A third car running in 12th. Unfortunately, the GT4 car is going to come home in 6th. They're a few laps down, or they're 1 lap down on their GT4 teammates. They have lost one other SSR entry to the mountain. But overall, good turnout for SSR today, with 11.5 minutes on the clock.
So Kimichev looks as though he's reopened that lead back to the 92 TTR car now. So GT4 looks as though it got exciting for a short moment, but all seems to have panned out nice and clearly again. So it's looking like it's going to be stock standard as it has been for a long period of time now, with the 888 from the 92 from the 77.
This is our director's drive of the day, and you know what? I'm inclined to agree. 5-star motorsport. The combination of Simon Nicholson, who's at the wheel now, Michael Brennan and Jason Cooper. We saw this car feature in the opening stint. Not in a particularly positive light. Jason Cooper was getting his elbows out while a lap down. There was some contact, there was some biff and barge. They were back in 40th place. They were off the lead lap, but 10 minutes to go, they're in 5th. What a recovery, what a drive from these 3 drivers. 5-star motorsport have driven really, really well today. Stellar effort.
Yeah, they really have, and I was going to say, I wonder if the 88 or the 89 are due in for a pit stop soon, but neither of them are. They're within that window with 10 laps to go, so to get them in just 1 place higher, which would be pretty cool to see. But yeah, that 34th to 40th to 5th is just an insane drive, and that's why you don't give up in these races, because the race isn't done until, I mean, there's terminal damage or the checkered flag waves, and you can gain those positions as everyone else starts to retire. And like Outers, who, you know, they've been in the lead or near the lead for most of this race, but a miscalculation and then retirement took them out of that, and that's bumped them up into 5th place, and that's pretty huge. That's a monumental drive.
I saw that 5 laps to go come up, and it was yellow, and I thought it was a safety car. My heart skipped a beat. No. Simply 5 laps to go. You really should change the colour of that banner, Jay. Bran, who would you say is your driver or team of the day so far?
Look, I'd have to go the Vendaval car. They've been absolutely just...
Hang on!
No.
Hang on! Hold the phone. Riley Bilson, simrigs.com. Reed Park. 8.5 minutes on the clock. Now, we should stay green. There was a car in that spot earlier on, and we did not have a safety car for it. Calling for the tow. Probably a bit too far back on the replay there. No, says Jay. He reckons it happened at turn 1. Well, they made it up to Reed Park. Straight ahead.
Oh, it's just straight ahead. Very strange.
And they have towed back to pit lane. We stay green. Oh, look out. Crisis averted. You were saying, Brent?
Yes, I was saying, the Vendaval car, the 36 car, they've been absolutely faultless throughout the entirety of this race. They haven't put a foot wrong. They've managed everything correctly. And, you know, it's just a hats off moment to them. But I also can't go past the 111 car. They started in P23, and, you know, they're up to P9 at the moment as well. So those guys have done my car has done a phenomenal job, and, you know, I appreciate all the hard work they've done. And we have to applaud everyone who makes it to the end of this race, realistically. You know, a solid week worth of testing, if not more, you know, to decide cars, setups, driver pairings, all that kind of stuff behind the scenes. So it's a hats off to everyone who finishes this race, but the Vendaval car has been faultless. The 36 car has been faultless throughout the entirety of the race.
No bias whatsoever towards your equal praise of the 111 car?
Not at all, no.
No.
I had to slide it in there at some point in time.
Yeah, right. Brad, your team of the day?
Team or car? Because SSR have driven phenomenally across all of their cars today, and
yeah.
Well,
it's generally one car, one team in these instances.
I mean, I'd probably have to agree with Jay. The 5-star motorsport car coming from a long way back and being a lap down, and you know, that's a Herculean task around here, and just consistency gets you there in the end. But SSR, who were a pretty small team not too long ago, until the merge/takeover with United, have put in a fantastic effort today. So if that's a prelude to what we're going to see in Scops this year with even more entries, then I'm very much looking forward to when that starts as well.
Five minutes, just a couple of laps to go. There are 2 cars that are not teammates. Vendaval going by as Drop Bear Motorsport get out of the way. 3 laps to go on this race. 9.6 seconds the gap. 1/10 quicker last lap for Anderson over Ethan Grigol in second. Check back in on the GT4s. It's still smooth sailing for iRacing Guest 888. And I'll tell you what, this will be a big result for this team. Coming up against the likes of Trans Tasman, Synergy Sim Racing, the Falcon Racing entry, Evolution Racing team, and the youthfulness of the team. I'm not sure how old Kimichev is, but Caleb Hides and Mario Vartanian, they're very young. They've been around iRacing a lot, but they're still very young drivers. And so for them to come out here and put together a 12-hour race with Vlad Kimichev and do it up against the experience and pace of those GT4 competitors is a really, really outstanding effort.
Yeah, it really is, and it's very, how do I put this lightly? You would not expect that from such a young team, because you really need a good head on your shoulders, and that's something that only comes with age and experience, and that hasn't phased these guys at all. And their young minds and good reactions and good speed that us old folk don't have has really put them in a really good position today. But even when they were getting absolutely hounded by a seasoned veteran like Madison Down, there was no cracks seemed to show. They just kept going, and that's what's put them here at the end of the race, and it's an absolute testament to their maturity from such a young age in a race like this.
Shane Van Gisbergen has handed over the reins to Brad Newman to bring that Falcon Racing 50 car to the flag. I think they just missed on strategy in the end. They've certainly had the pace. I don't recall a single moment, really, of them being in an incident or falling back, losing a lot of time. It may have just sort of happened while we were off air, but hasn't come together for this team today. I'm sure we'll see them have another attempt next year, most likely. But they're a tried and tested team. As I mentioned, Nick Foster and Van Gisbergen, I'm pretty sure, team up in the Apex Hunters United League. And they do very well over there. 12 Hours, a different beast. And the winners in both classes today going to be extremely, extremely deserving. 2.5 minutes on the clock. 1.5 laps to go. Out front for Vendeval, who've suddenly stretched that gap another 2 seconds. Not slowing down. In fact, it's just on a 2:03.2. One of the quicker laps. I think it is the quickest lap of his stint. His fastest of the race is a 2:01.3. But Anderson turning on the afterburners late on. It's the only car that has dipped into the 2:01s all race long. And I'm pretty sure it's the only car in the 2:03s at this stage of the race as well. It all started with pre-qualifying, whittling our GT3 field down to 42 entries. Vendeval Sim Racing snuck through very, very comfortably as they take the white flag even more comfortably. We went to qualifying last night, a 60-minute session for the GC3s, and Josh Anderson was given the reins to this Vendeval Porsche, and he topped the session all the way through. We had an almighty 15-car shootout. Anderson was the last car out. There was pressure on him to perform, needed to produce a stellar lap to grab pole, and produce a stellar lap he did. Snatched that pole away from Altus Esports by 0.04 of a second. And it's looking like a clean sweep of the weekend. Pole position and a race win just about 3 or so kilometers away. It was Anderson in control of the car at the start. He handed over to Dylan Burse. Both of them double stinting. Juani Lopez hopped in. He put in the hard miles through the middle of the race along with Dylan Burse as they swapped back and forth. And Josh Anderson has hopped in for this final stint. He came out in third, and it took all of about a lap or two for him to pull himself into the lead of the race. There's been no question since he got there over this car. They've nailed the strategy where others have failed. They've kept out of trouble. Their car at the end of 12 hours of racing has 4 straight corners. It looks like it's just rolled out of the garage. 325 laps. They started first, and out of Murray's corner, they're gonna finish first. Vendeval Sim Racing White, they win the Bathurst 12 Hour in 2022. Thanks to Logitech G and OSR Stellar performance. Outstanding stuff from Josh Anderson, Juani Lopez, and Dylan Burse. It's second place for Evolution Racing Team. It's a GT4 victory for Vlad Kimichev, Caleb Hydes, and Mario Vartanian. Second in class in GT3 was the Evolution Racing Team, car 26 of Ethan Grigault, Riley Preston, and Damon Woods. Third in class goes to Synergy Sim Racing, car 89, Wayne Burke, Luke Rosella, and Tom Freer. Trans-Tasman Racing pick up second with Maloney, Hampstead, and Brady Myers. And it's a double Trans-Tasman podium as Madison Down brings a McLaren to the line for car 77 with Lee Ellis and Brock Salmon. What a race. What a 12 hours of racing here on SimSpeed TV. Brad, your thoughts on the race that's unfolded before us?
It was definitely more unpredictable than I thought it would be. I was expecting, the stereotypical endurance, fuel-saving sort of thing, and then, we get a safety car in the last 90 minutes or the last 50 minutes sort of thing and really shake things up and make it a sprint to the end. But that was a whole different world of shake-ups with the 69 getting taken out late in the race and then Altus breaching their driver allocation limits, and then Vendaval just absolutely walking away with it as well. And even in GT4, I thought that Madison Down was just going to have the experience to be able to edge that win just by the slimmest of margins, but then they had their incident as well, and it was a lot of unexpected turns in unexpected ways, but it was an absolutely awesome race to watch nonetheless.
Brant?
Yes.
Thoughts on the race?
Thoughts on the race. Right, look, it was very clean. Very, very long stints, long runs of green flag racing, which is fantastic. It's always good when we can have a long, clean green race. It just brings out an entirely different strategy game compared to, with the stop-start of safety cars. So, got to hand it to everyone out there. They did a phenomenal job. There was 9 cars left on the lead lap. The last of that being the 111 car. So, well done to Vendaval. They haven't put a foot wrong in that 36 car all weekend. The entire race, they were super clean, consistent, and fast. And well done to the R8G Guest AAA car. They had a little bit of luck on their side. Things may have potentially gone differently had Madison not had that incident with the Jinx Shifters Ferrari, but what ifs and could have beens will be the story for a lot of these cars, especially those who, unfortunately didn't make it through to the end.
The obligatory jump at the end of the chase, completed by many, but there will be some obligatory donuts here for our 2 class winners who pull up on the main straight. Turn that traction control off and do some donuts. Come on, Josh. Show us what you got. There we go. Kimichev struggling in the background to get his car turned around.
Poor little road gearboxes just don't have the grunt.
Yeah. There you go. Kimichev got there on the end. Let's have a look at the results then. At the end of 325 laps, 12 hours of racing in the 2022 Logitech G OSR Bathurst 12 hour. We had about, 6 or 7 safety cars in the end. We went the last 2.5 hours green. And this is how it looked at the end. 12.5 seconds, the final margin of victory for Vendaval Sim Racing, car 36, over Evolution Racing Team in their 26 car. Synergy Sim Racing come home 3rd and 4th in car 89 ahead of car 88. 5-Star Motorsport with that incredible recovery to P5 ahead of simrigs.com DPR, car 233, RSR Esport XCM, TriStar Racing, and Drop Bear and Cozy making up the top 10. TriStar with the final car on the lead lap.
In 11th place, we had Fishing Motorsport 808 and Trans-Tasman 184 in 12th, Synergy Sim Racing 27 in 13th, Mach 1 and 333 in 14th place, Australia Wide, the first car 2 laps down with Torque Inc. Aggressors in 16th, Crisscross Racing and Velocity Sim Labs 17th and 18th, with Pace Syndicate and Team JDR rounding out the top 20.
In 21st was the 73 Simrigs DPR entry, followed by the start of our non-finishers, or the Simrigs entry may have been a non-finisher as well. So we had the 43 Logitech Altus G Sports, unfortunately, over their maximum driver limit. The Flame Energy 2 in 23rd, the 209 HJR Jinx Shifters in 24th, the 826 Iridium in 25th, rounding out our GT3 field. And then the first of our GT4s, the 888 RAG Guest in 26th, followed by the TTR 92 and 77 in 27th and 28th. And rounding out the top 30, the number 50 Falcon Racing in 29th, and the 101 Analytical Race on Oz in P30.
P31. Synergy Sim Racing, car 14, ahead of plenty of retirements from here on down. Falcon Racing, Synergy Sim Racing, Pursuit, Empower Summit, Lacer Esports, ERT, Twitchy Foot, Taipan, Fishy Motorsports. Not many finishes from the 52 odd that started this race. It was a very punishing 12 hours today. I'm sure Jay will get to that next page of results at some point. Pretty sure Jay's PC is screaming in pain. R1 Sim Sports, they were an early contender. LL Racing, Stone Cold Racing, Jinx Shifters, Vendevals, second to car. They could have been in contention. 9-5, both their entries. Pulse Ichuka Toyota, Racing Oz, HBC Racing, and the final 2 cars, Jinx Shifters and Drop Bear Motorsport, who ended up behind the safety car. Oof. Let's have a chat then to our overall race winners, Josh Anderson, Dylan Burse, and... Come on, where's your third driver? Is he hiding down there in the interview channel?
He's currently awaiting to join the Discord. I've just sent him an invite. So
okay.
Probably should have been on the ball with that earlier. Oh well.
We'll start with you and Dylan then. Josh, I spoke to you about this time last night, and you were pretty happy with the pace of your car. You talked up your co-drivers, Dylan Burse, and man, huge mental blank. My brain's hit 12 hours and said no thank you. And Juani Lopez, and you said, I'm pretty confident. Well, turns out with good reason.
Yeah, we had it was a bit of an up and down race actually, but luckily it went our way in the end. You know, for a while there I thought we were up a creek without a paddle on strategy, but luckily it worked out well for us. But the car was pretty good. You know, of course people were going to talk about Bop, but they could have chosen another car if they wanted to, and they didn't. So the car was good. Like, I enjoyed driving it. It was quite hard to make a setup for the Porsche that worked because the car's so loose and it's like down the hill. I crashed a million times in testing, but you know, we made the car work over the race run. So yeah, I was like, the car felt quite good. Dylan did an amazing job. Yeah, for only 16, he's far more mature than I am. So yeah, I was really impressed with his stints, and one on very short notice. You know, he did a really good job too. Basically, we didn't have a driver 48 hours ago, so for him to jump in and race with us at whatever time it is in New York, like 4 AM or something, actually later than that, it was massive. So hopefully he joins the Discord soon, but you know, I'm pretty happy. It was a great effort from everyone at Vendaval. You know, I'm stoked really.
What a bad call from Juan to jump in to this team. Dylan, going back to qualifying yesterday, we'll start there. How was it for you watching that qualifying session, if you were watching? seeing Josh trying to take pole position. How are the nerves there?
Oh, look, I wasn't really that nervous. I thought he should be able to get it, but I mean, yeah, look, was a bit nervous. Like every now and again, like he did miss the apex or hit it too much, I guess, at the last corner. And I thought it might have been over for pole position then, but I mean, look, to still get pole from that, I was super stoked, and I thought we were going to have a good race tonight, which we did. So really glad with that.
Going through your race today, how did it feel for you out there? You put in the hard yards through the middle with Juan. We thought you were going to go to the ends, but then we checked your driver time and realised that would result in some big penalties. How did it play out from your seat?
Yeah, I mean, I was no good with strat the whole race. I don't really know much about that stuff, but it's good that we had Alex Bird and stuff, and people like Josh who have a big head, thank God. And yeah, I mean, they were able to sort strat stuff out pretty good and get a really good strat going towards the end, which end of the day pretty much handed us the win, thankfully.
Either of you two... Oh, there he is. Lopez is here. I'm going to drag him up.
Yeah, da.
And hopefully he can unmute that microphone and we can have a chat. Juan, thank you very much for joining us. We hear it's pretty early morning for you over in New York. How are you going?
Hey, I'm going. It's 5 in the morning. I'm up with the roosters.
Early morning for you, but a good call to jump in with this team at the last minute. How happy are you with the performance this weekend?
Hey, I'm happy with my teammates' performance carrying me through. That was excellent. I couldn't have asked for more.
From yourself, how much fun did you have out there? It looks like a pretty clean event. There were some typical safety cars, but for a 12-hour race with 52 cars, it looked like some great battling.
Yeah, it was some good battling. Managed to stay out of the walls. Car was a bit tough to drive, but at least for me.
We'll let you boys go celebrate. Josh, I'm calling you the de facto team leader, so have you guys got any people to thank?
Yeah, definitely. First up, everyone at Vanderbilt Sim Racing. We've had a bit of a tough time recently with some races, and it's good to get a result for everyone. And our main sponsor, SimiCube, as everyone knows, they have the best direct drive wheelbases, so hit them up if you're interested in getting a direct drive. But yeah, we're stoked to get a good result, I suppose.
Thank you very much. Congratulations once again. Go celebrate, and hopefully we'll see you for the next big event.
Lovely. Thanks, guys. Thanks for the broadcast.
Cheers,
Much
guys.
appreciated.
Yep.
Cheers.
Thank you, boys, very much. And we'll have a chat to our GT4 class winners as well. Certainly a very young team. Caleb Hides, Mario Vartanian, and Vlad Kimichev. The hardest part of the interviews, as it turns out, is getting them into the comms box. There we go. Hello, lads. Thank you for joining us. Congratulations on a stellar performance. Caleb, we'll start with you. How happy are you with that?
I don't know, mate. No, I'm obviously very happy with that. Over the moon, to be honest. Yeah, it was a bit of the outlier in the team. I have two very talented teammates who did a phenomenal job all day. And yeah, we just ran a really good race, and yeah, absolutely stoked to have the win there.
How did it play out for you? We saw you through the middle. You played a very crucial anchor role over the middle stages of the race, and we saw your R8 G car up at the front pretty much all the way through.
Yeah. Oh, you go, Mario.
We had planned a good strategy from yesterday that counteracted all our paces, and we watched last year's race, or partially a bit of it, to figure out how safety cars work, and we did see a lot of them. So we knew if we used our pace at the right time and onwards, we could run a good race and leave Vlad in for the end stints, because he's really quick.
He certainly is. Vlad, you had the role of qualifying the car. Didn't quite get that pole, but that doesn't matter because you've won the race. You had the job of starting, you had the job of finishing, you had all the big moments, and you came through with flying colours.
Yeah, like qualifying didn't go that well as we expected, because there were a couple of moments when I was improving by 2/10, but I didn't manage to finish these 2 laps, you know. And as we got black flag, I think, yeah, we lost about 10 minutes, and that cost us, I think, 2 more laps or 3 more laps we could do and probably improve to the pole, because yeah, the pace was there 100%, but we just didn't manage to complete the lap. But in the race, everything went as we expected. We knew that the starting stints are not that important, like we just need to start and survive. I managed to do that, and then we were just keeping our strategy near, and we just kept it and decided to put Caleb into the car already after, I think, 47 laps, because there was no reason to keep me in the car. We knew that there are many safety cars ahead, and it's better for me to go to sleep, as I have 8 hours less than Sydney time. It was already 3 AM. Yeah, I just went to sleep, and we decided to put me in the car closer to the finish to finish the race. Yeah, and it worked very well, and we are really happy to win today.
And as you should be. Mario, any people from the team that you guys want to thank?
Obviously, first being Vlad and all the managers such as Tebow and Medi for preparing and getting delivery and all the background stuff sorted before the race, since we chose to compete pretty late on during the week. And also, I'd like to thank Caleb for stepping in. Obviously, not being in the team and finding an Aussie driver was pretty hard. So having someone to fill in was pretty good late on during the week.
Well,
yeah,
yeah, Vlad.
Yeah, and from me, I also want to say thanks to all the managers, because Medi, Stefan, and Thibaut, they helped us to sort all the problems out with the delivery, skin, registration, and all that stuff. And yeah, thank them. We couldn't reach that result without them.
Thank you, boys, very much. Congratulations on a fantastic win.
Thank you.
Thanks.
There you have it. Our 2 class winners from... Oops, I dragged Bren out. Come back, Bren. Our 2 class winners from our GT Spectacular at Mount Panorama. We've got one last person to have a chat to. He is Scott Nolan from Smith & Sons Renovations and Extensions. Scott, a word on the race.
Mate, what an event. Just a bit from me. I just want to thank you guys for putting on another great broadcast, as you guys have. Want to thank OSR for inviting me back to be one of the major sponsors with Logitech again for 2022. And it was so good to have a multi-class format this year. And I think it was crazy. I've never looked in my mirror so much driving a GT4 car today. But, it was really great. And, yeah, just a massive shout-out to, obviously, Logitech, Sideways Photography, OSR, and then obviously, myself with Smith & Sons. And, there's renovating and extension franchise out in around the east coast of Australia, New Zealand, and also Canada. So if you're looking for a great builder to do some renovations, or mum and dad as well, then, definitely get on the website and have a look around. But, yeah, I can't think of another better event. And, just want to thank you guys for putting it all on, and well done to the winners, and great to have an SSR Smith & Sons car there on the podium at the end too.
Hey, thank you very much, Scott. Thank you for jumping on board and supporting us. Hopefully we're working with you again in the future.
Thanks, boys.
So at the end of 12 hours we have our victors, and we have another 12-hour in the record books for OSR. The second running of this event, dare I say it, a resounding success. But for our coverage, I think it's about time we sign off. So for all of us in the commentary box for the conclusion of this race, myself, Ryan Jones, Brent Tucker, and Bradley Wingard, and Jay Kennedy, thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
This is iRacing, the world's premier online racing game. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat to experience today's newest form of competitive motorsport, virtual racing, all from your home PC. Race virtually in indoor series from NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, the World of Outlaws, Aussie Supercars and more. Take on legendary circuits like Daytona, Silverstone and the Nürburgring. Join iRacing's global online racing community and get on track today at iRacing.com.